eight, seven, six, five, four, three, two, one.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Oversight, presented by Hyperlux, as we are jumping into Week 3 Split 2 Finals. My name is Dia, and I am joined by Zephyr, as I always like to be. Zephyr, welcome to the broadcast. How you doing today?
That's sweet words to share. I appreciate that, as you always like to be. Hopefully, a duo unseparated here that obviously gets the chance to cover the best of the best here in the North American region as they rejoin us for one more lovely time.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of discussion, specifically on Reddit lately, which I do go despite my previous NRG trauma with the Reddit community.
Oh, yes.
They've been talking a lot about how blessed we are right now to have so much top-tier competition in North America. Specifically, there's Apex for every day of the week, and here at Oversight, we get to provide you that on this particular Thursday. Now, you've talked about it, the best of the best teams are joining us here today, but we've worked through that over the course of the split as well. From Week 2 of Oversight in Split 2, we've got the 10 top teams from those finals carrying over, as well as the 10 that have qualified to be here today through this Monday's games.
And obviously, there's a lot to discuss, especially after what was not just here at Oversight, but ALGS, What's Esports Arena, of course, many other orgs, and all these teams competing across the board here. It was just last week that we talk about none other than a team like NRG topping the board here, rejoining us one again.
Yeah, I mean, really impressive performance from them then, and you know that I like to talk about it, so I may as well give us the quick once-over on NRG. It's been an interesting week for them, given the fact that they started off last Friday placing first in Oversight, went into the weekend where they did not have the greatest performance in the ALGS, and then popped right out into Monday in the Carnage Cup and placed first yet again. It's been a real roller coaster with the squad.
Up and down, up and down. It doesn't seem to have rewarded us an answer just yet, but it's definitely something we will be looking at here today, especially going into week 3. But we've got the big trifecta too. If you want to talk about consistency, some winning teams that we'll be watching, all 3 are here. You can see them at the bottom. Team Liquid, The Guard, TSM, both are each replicating some serious success, not just in the offshore tournaments, but in ALGS as well.
Oh my lord. Yes, they are. And especially, I mean, the Guard, I think a lot of people have been paying a lot of attention to recently, rightly so. I'm curious how they'll perform today, as they did just barely sneak their way into the top 4 last week. But I'm going to add even a 4th horseman into this trifecta that you've illustrated. Dark Zero, interestingly enough, have also been really consistent, maybe not in the ALGS overall, but specifically this past week, having ended last week's games in the top 2 at Oversight, and then popping right into ALGS and putting up a 3rd place finish with a 16-kill game on ALGS Day 7.
Yeah, remarkable to say the least. You can never literally count them out here. As much as they mystify me in terms of their performance, they do a fantastic job. As we make our way down that list, maybe kind of ranking these teams in their recent performances, I want to bring up 3 entities who have all kind of been competing against each other in a very similar fashion. We talk about Luminosity, Optic, Esports Arena, all with their relative success, once again reappearing here again and again, but maybe not quite the best to be on that kind of 4-team list that we just discussed.
You know, I like that you brought up the rankings, because I wanted to throw in a curious little statistic from our qualifiers as well. Esports Arena, of course, qualifying in 1st place out of Monday, 100 Thieves right behind them, and immediately after that in 3rd place, we've got Stormtroopers making yet another appearance in the finals here at Oversight. Stormtroopers, our only team that isn't in the Pro League right now, have made it here yet again, and in the top 3 for Monday.
I was about to say, it's not just that they made it here again, they actually dominated in qualifiers. And there are some serious teams in there, guys, all right? And it goes to show that between Vizay and the rest of this crew, they host a wealth of experience that we got to see the chance of that coming into what was week 1 of Oversight, and they were punished in certain scenarios, but they were able to hold on to a lot of late game positions that showed that their mentality, what they're choosing to do, it is on the right track, albeit when they match up against some of those fantastic teams that we discussed, they don't quite hold their own. So definitely watching tonight.
Yeah, it's a curious arc for this team, especially because their better performance in the qualifiers this week is sharply contrasted with, yet again, their performance earlier in the week over in the Challenger circuit, where they actually had a big downturn in the way that they've been playing there. And while we know that it's very different styles of lobbies, I think it's fascinating that we're seeing Stormtroopers continue to improve at a professional level with some of the best teams in North America, while simultaneously having a much more difficult time in the Challenger circuit.
And I'll tell you what, another interesting little tidbit regarding that team is the fact that Karasuno is in the lobby today, and obviously we see the change-up Davis now playing alongside him. That is a prior teammate of Vizay who was alongside him when they were during the preseason qualifiers, going through those trials and tribulations, and now we'll be up against each other in our finals here tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping that they get the chance to interact, as much as it doesn't seem likely, because Stormtroopers and Karasuno do like to play 2 very different styles of game, and you can see it even in the way that these former teammates contrast each other in the playstyles. Stormtroopers do really love those late game rings, and in a meta that is increasingly zone-centric, their prioritization and prediction of endgame zones has gotten really, really good in the past couple weeks. The curiosity for me tonight is that so many of our top teams that qualified out of last week's finals have also had even better zone readings recently. A lot of teams are really starting to put their eggs into the zone basket yet again. That meta is re-entering North America, and the way that Stormtroopers and Karasuno are interacting with that on different sides of the coin is fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see how teams kind of keep that on the mind. Other than that, though, some other narratives that we do have developing here, and one that I think is remarkable, is the fact that we've got 100 Thieves in the lobby tonight. I know you brought them up just a little bit here a second ago, but you guys got to realize 100 Thieves have not made it to an Oversight final since week 4 of Split 1. That is how long it has taken this team to find their way into the top 20 in one of these particular nights.
I'm surprised to hear that as well, because if you said that even last year, a lot of people would go, yeah, I mean, 100 Thieves are a good team. Of course they should be in the top 20 in North America on any given day. But like you talked about, that inconsistency recently has been a little bit troubling. I do wonder with their second place finish in qualifiers whether that'll actually carry over into today, whether they've got some secret sauce that they've unlocked. But I have to say, I'm a little bit more concerned about them when we talk about the fact that Dark Zero are in the lobby, because that contest over at Command Center has really hampered both teams' ability to stay consistent recently.
Right, and this is a team that understands more than anyone how to play those kind of zones direct, right in the heart, and especially when we get into more controlled lobbies, they seem to perform better when there's less that punishes them. And I mean, as a simple statement, but at the end of the day, it does provide the benefits that we look towards when we talk about 100 Thieves, and the fact that they're already getting contested right off drop is going to be a huge problem, hopefully one that they can overcome. But between the two of us, we both know what Dark Zero is capable. What I do love, Dia, though, is the fact that this kind of leads into a team that is very similar to 100 Thieves, that while I talk about their consistency in the zone, I think Complexity sometimes does a little bit better.
I'm so on the fence about Complexity. When we were discussing 100 Thieves earlier,
Yes.
I was like, yeah, I mean, I'm really happy to see them here. I do think that they're relatively consistent and, yes, getting better over time. Complexity, I think, have a similar level of consistency, but it's way more on this roller coaster of emotions than anyone else, because Complexity will literally place first. If you watch Monday's Carnage Cup, place first twice in a row and then not make top 3, which is a mind-boggling.
It just doesn't make any
comparison.
sense.
It shouldn't happen. But Complexity can do it. They can win 2 games. They can jump out of top 5, and I really don't know how to marry those two things. Are they a good team? Are they inconsistent? Are they consistent in the best way? I don't know how to characterize what I'm seeing out of Complexity right now.
Trust me, I don't either, and I'm always the first person, whether it be back on the podcast or before ALGS, to support that Complexity roster. I mean, I got to represent howdy, but at the end of the day, it just hasn't quite found that same level. It's crazy because we literally came from week 1 and we see them in final circles, we see them in final rings, up there as high as the top 7 to 5 last squads, but they just never quite put up the points in some of those situations versus what happens to be their big wins that they move forward.
And what we've been talking about, teams and their counterparts, we'll have the opportunity to touch on a few more when we get into the game. Compositionally is always what I look for on these screens as we're loading in. But the one that I want to talk about as we get into the game is Optic, is their recent transition back into the meta that really made Optic one of the most well-known teams in North America. They've jumped right back onto that caustic Gibraltar putting up even more value now that he is one of the only ones in the lobby. And yet, Optic Gaming still barely made it in today. 10th in the qualifiers on Monday. They still don't have that old mojo back.
And we've seen teams run up against them. Notably, I know you wanted to bring it up, Luminosity. Both accounts from us behind the scenes, we talk about that specific roster really punishing Optic a few times around, and even was running a very similar comp when they were here on World's Edge during, I believe, what was ALGS, or when this recent change came through. So another big narrative to watch out here. You've got 20 great squads that have all found their way down here finally onto the map, and for some, potentially already struggling.
HUC missing one already, and with Crook down, you do have to make that banner recovery a little bit more riskily. The nice thing is that when you get a kill this early into the game, camping the banner is way less likely because you still do need to get loot. So HUC will be able to grab this, hopefully pop the res over in Geyser, and get Crook right back into the game. On the other side of this, Stormtroopers have better things to do, already on the rotation, having completely looted up No Name, and now making their way over into Lava Siphon, where we've got even another res going on. This is actually the same one from HEC. Yes. Hill's still making their way over, and Crook and Enemy are going to be right in front of Stormtroopers as they rotate down.
Hill is a little bit separated, but securing some strength for this roster. I personally, if I'm being honest, don't think we'll see much come up of this. It's far too early for something truly aggressive to come out of Storm there. For HEC, though, finally, some regrouping. Hill there, finally, with a gold, starting to balance out and have something there, a little bit more competitive.
It is going to hurt HEC, though, because despite the fact that they're getting this loot advantage compared to a lot of other squads that will have made their rotations early, they're going to be missing out on some serious territory when we consider that the ring is pulling just off to the south of Lava Siphon. We caught just a glimpse of it in the top left of your screens on the minimap there, but TSM have already made their predictions and are moving all the way down into Launch Site, where Luminosity Gaming, sitting on triple whites, haven't had the chance to organize yet.
And we talk about that kind of ego read. You get that early information that a team is weaker or not particularly set up here. They will full send it. It is early enough in the game that you will not see any kind of punishment. Already right off the bat, a big break. Caustic in response here for TSM. They've got a hardy setup in Launch Site. Now, granted, for what will I say is Luminosity, there's a lot of space in this POI. It isn't the most risky situation.
They've got the opportunity to sit up top, and I certainly wouldn't mind it, especially now that you've encountered a little bit of resistance. NRG's rotation in also meeting with just a little bit of trouble, but they've come out on the better end of a lot of these trades, and so get to take the high ground away. The important thing here for a lot of our squads, but especially NRG, is going to be to stay in motion, because sitting in the open right here, you'll notice that, again, compositionally, they don't have a lot of answers if anybody runs up on them, and so continuing to move as guard, come in right behind them, is the only thing that'll keep NRG alive.
I like that from RKN there. Christmas and joy here, getting the read of festivity, the season's greetings here. We'll see if he welcomes NRG potentially with open arms. It looks like they've made their way back towards the Siphon direct for now, setting up well within that building. Got to be a little bit careful here. A lot of these more northern rotating teams will be beginning to potentially pinch your squad if you aren't set up properly. For Dark Zero, that may be the case for HCE below them.
Actually, setting up in a really good position. The initial shield break, I don't think will net Dark Zero a kill just yet. Is actually committing onto that low ground is something akin to just throwing the game away, but picking up enemy as another squad rotates in does let Dark Zero at least farm up that singular bit of KP. Gold knockdown shield on the other side, but this should come through nonetheless. Shots in the air as enemy does expire. No res beacon near here, and HEC find themselves crippled as we move into just the end of Ring 1.
And the problem here for HCE is the fact that they're pinched. There's nowhere to go. That hill, we just tuned into the other side. That's Optic right there, potentially waiting. Great shots ringing through here from Zero to continually punish out as that kill feed does begin to light up. And with that redeploy, they turn right round, start chasing this.
Luminosity have got a small fight going on with MPL at the moment that they are likely to come out on top of. Pow full thirsted now, and again, we talked about it a little bit already, but just even at this point in the game, finding a res that's safe will be really risky, as very few people will have those mobile res beacons to get a little bit of customizability into the game. Zero's got a good angle right now, and this should be yet another kill falling into the hands of Dark Zero. No real way to avoid this. EMP not even going to go off as Jen Burton makes short work of the drone, and then takes down Crook, taking out yet another member of HCE.
For Hill, going to have to rat out the last remnants of this game, just try to survive for the time being. Meanwhile, back over here towards what we saw starting off with Sentinels, it was an early knock found, and it's none other than 100 Thieves on top of this building, finding shots from afar. That zone does force a bit of a rotation out of Sen here, but it would be a darn shame to see Thieves drop this one off after exuding a lot of pressure so early on.
Yeah, wouldn't imagine that they actually give up too much ground here. Instead, the rotation into zone should be what this team is compositionally aiming for. Given that you've got the Newcastle and the Watson, this isn't something you stereotypically see around the edge, and Vaxlon with this Valkyrie should be able to get them into zone real quick as well. 100 Thieves maybe having a little bit of an easier time than we would have imagined, at least initially. For ESA, though, I believe they've found themselves a nice corner of safety. I didn't see any other squads on this read, but not everybody's going to be Dark Zero, guys. This is Esports Arena.
Tuning in here with Dark Zero number 3. No. Something I will bring up, though, is the fact that no Luda for tonight. Obviously, we all heard as a community that there was some suggestions that Luda obviously has maybe the go-ahead here in the future to return to this roster, not quite as injured as he himself even thought. But that does mean that we still see the impacts of Naughty in tonight's Oversight tournament. Meanwhile, that feed up there, 2 squads eliminate HEC as the rat there.
As if the performances on C9 weren't enough as well. The fact that we get to see Naughty performing on yet another roster, Esports Arena really looking good in recent history, is quite heartening to me, because Naughty clearly has a lot of passion for the game, and with the recent turmoil around C9's roster, I do hope that a player like that finds a home.
Yes.
In fact, I would say it should have. It would be a darn shame if it didn't, because it's the logical decision for a lot of teams to pick up a player with that much talent. Luminosity, however, have lost a player, maybe not on the roster, but at least for this game, and G2 may be losing one as well in a fight over with Furia. Design whips out the fisticuffs to find that knock with the help of Resulta, and now G2 have a numbers advantage that quickly turns into a full squad wipe. Furia taken down in 18th.
Props to Resulta there. The upper angles right on top, really allowing him to find access towards the backside of Furia, as we saw the last remnants Design Chaotic just trying to survive off their back, providing what they could as well. Now, granted, for them, one of the larger rotations ahead, but obviously benefiting from what we will see off of some of Furia's loot. You can see there, though, on our feed, TL not too far away, might catch a rotation like this, or potentially, if they find their way even further as BR Demons comes down, they as well.
Started off like this, straight up, not a fan of where TL are at right now. Right in between G2 and BR Demons, the likelihood that they get sent on by one or both sides as they rotate into this ring has just skyrocketed. And Team Liquid, while they should still be able to walk their way into this next zone, will be surrounded effectively when they get there. Given the fact that they have gone pretty far south, though, we'll see whether Luminosity are still alive when they get there. Niesel's low, but Jaguaris pops out with this Mastiff and does some serious work before going down, dropped on basically 0 health. Finally takes him out, and SSG get the opportunity to reset in what is now the highest of high grounds over by launch site.
And it's a bit of a shame, too, for Luminosity. It kind of felt like we were going back in time there. Gibby bubble down, shotguns out right in your face, trying to provide, but didn't quite land that. But it was impressive given the fact that they were a 2v3 in that situation. Punished out. SSG really trying to climb up there. Meanwhile, back towards TL, we talk about this rotation. Finally, they start to carry themselves forward. That redeploy right over the wall. You can see in the distance the same taking place there for G2. Now, where they land being that of Siphon. We know for a fact plenty of teams have made way through.
It's a poignant Valk ult for them. Esports Arena taking their fight with Optic right now. Do eat that defensive bombardment, but with cover from the bank smokes, are able to move their way into Dome. No contest. Nades are causing a bit of a problem for them, but Esports Arena should be able to reset behind these boxes before pushing up. Capper even poking out for a little bit of damage, and Phony up in your face with the Peacekeeper finds the knock onto Fearless with the help of Naughty. Esports Arena gonna get this finish, gonna claim this building and do it in record-breaking time.
And the fact that they do it that quickly, DL, means that there's no chance in hell that Optic route through from the backside and third party this one out. A bit of damage, though, and Optic might be here for the access. Dome down, door breaking, crack on through the other side.
A really good bubble as well. Gives them the safety to push on in. Out goes that caustic gas, and Optic Gaming find the first knock onto Capra. As fast as Esports Arena are going, Optic say we can go faster, and Knock finds a great angle on top of this little bubble before eventually Skittlecake gets dropped, and they've got to consider this reset. From the outside, they're being pressured with even guards starting to knock on Optic's door. In comes the nade, and in come the guard, cleaning up Optic Gaming, and ESA eliminated simultaneously.
Right there for the guard. They pick up one of those KP. You can actually see from the outside Tempest with that last remnant themselves there. Oh, looks like an Ash in play with that phase breach right there in front of Rambo here.
There's been such a heads-up play from both Optic Gaming and the guard, but ultimately now the guard who actually own the building, because they've got what we talked about in launch site previously for SSG, ultimate high ground in this next zone and so much cover out towards this northwestern side of the map with stormtroopers right next door to them. Both of these squads really prioritizing the zone. They should play relatively conservatively, but I'm a lot more worried for stormtroopers than I am for the guard.
Yeah, for Stormtrooper, they have to deal with the fact that we get into that further zone. You have teams spying in from the eastern side of launch site here, notably what will be Space Station Gaming probably, who will be able to provide damage. Maybe not the kills that come through in completion, but enough damage that will continually force this squad to, well, probably lose out on the majority of their resources before they can even compete in the end game. But Dia, right now, we're focusing on this particular rotation. A minute to go, and several squads still stuck back as far as Lava Siphon. BR Demons being one of them. Their late rotation from Harvester potentially on its route to be punished.
Now, Team Liquid also got pretty hard punished just as we cut over here. BR Demons forcing them all the way out of Lava Siphon, dealing a nice bit of damage, and now having to take the low ground rotation into a spot that won't even be that good for them in zone. With Fun finding out that, I think as they would have all expected, there's going to be a little bit of problems ahead of them. G2 have actually been the ones to make the first rotation, and just as we discussed earlier, TL are now effectively sandwiched between these two teams. Do they pick G2 or do they pick BR Demons? Because they're fighting one of them.
Well, it's surprising to say at least. Meanwhile, we do see a fight start out here. BR Demons and what I believe is combo NRG. BR trying to get themselves up here. Wingman 8 and a big crack back on that mobile shield, but the drop has already come through here.
BR Demons now, once again, have this high ground, but don't want to push down just yet. Out goes that smoke to give them a little bit of cover on landing. They get a bit more confident and still start to make their way in. Now getting that position revealed to them. Reeds, not able to find a shot. Should be able to at least claim this RV. Hopefully a kill is just that bubble going down in time. Keeps this squad alive. BR Demon's going to push that. Make sure that they at least get this little bit of cover. A little bit of entry into zone before continuing. Aiden, still alive.
It's tough here, at least for BR Demons. They do give themselves this next position, but you can see already how this angle from above, playing right there, he provided some of those initial shots that were beginning to beam out. And Dark Zero, they actually opt coming through the replay. Gotta be a bit cheeky. Energy on that other side. The guys are with BR in combo. This is a immaculate pinch to punish.
Yeah, I really appreciate that NRG on their rotation
there you go.
Stopped here and threw in some shots as well. It doesn't end up getting them any kills, as most of those are cleaned up by BR Demons, but still, eliminating a squad, going to be a really nice heads-up move on this low ground. TL suffering a bit, as we illustrated earlier. Maybe going to even get pushed, as Sentinels also gone. Pushes us into the top 12 now, with Complexity actually having a nice ability to gatekeep down towards this northernmost side of the ring.
It's tough, though. Complex needs to speed up here. There's a lot of squads making their way over from launch site that they're likely to have to defend against, as well as those from the hillside here. For them, it's a source of cover, but at any given point, one mistake, one wrong spy towards a team could be potentially your back being punished. For 100 Thieves, they're on their slow roto in, and NRG are in the prime position to provide here.
100 Thieves do have somebody shooting their backs as well, so NRG are getting just this little bit of help up against the squad that's trying to gatekeep them. A good retreat, as they still have some time to do so. 40-something seconds till we move in on this next zone, and if NRG can continue applying pressure, hopefully with some ordinances, they could still get a spot in zone. They want to try and clear out 100 Thieves right now, though, as a knock's already gone down. Nathan pushes in with that EVA, and the hip fire from the G7 helps finish this squad off. Yet another team knocked out, and NRG get their dream of the zone in front of them.
It is their dream of the zone, but they were assisted. Looked like RKN coming in there to provide damage from afar. Meanwhile, for BR Demons, we saw them up on that low ground outside of this building in particular. They finally make their way through. Vayne laying down what seems to be that castle wall to provide some defense, but looking for angles, looking for rotations, and Reeds takes the full brunt of the wingman there. Aiden trying to keep the dream alive with the flesh, but the cracks still keep coming here. Vayne behind the boxes trying to stick some shield up, but the job is done, and Season have defended the provision.
Fights like this do really make me appreciate Season as well. They've got such good synergy and great double wide swings with them to punish the push from Reeds. Unfortunately, their rotation into zone seems to be a bit too late, and they're not the only ones. TSM are having that zone push them in as well. Whilst they fight up against G2, Hal actually getting knocked and outside the zone should mean that TSM are permanently down a member, but G2 still have to make their way in simultaneously from this low ground. They've got just a little bit of cover above them as TSM drop down to try and finish off Design. 1 HP on him, but Chaotic pushes forward, finds that knock, taking out G2 and TSM simultaneously.
And I like this from Complexity. We talk about this position early on. They turn right round, hearing those shots, and they provide the final source of damage to eliminate both teams from play here. Back up against the wall, but nothing to worry about from behind. Still, this rotation further continuing to carry back over towards the team that's been on top of it all from a distance. The Guard finding success after success, racking up the KP from that ultimate high ground you talked about early on.
And the zone just keeps pulling to them as well. The prediction out of Guard has let them take so much space. They've even pushed Stormtroopers down to baby zone. Now the biggest problem for them is going to be identifying threats properly. RKN zooming around in this crypto drone will give us a good idea of what to look out for. But realistically, the Guard have so many people that want their spot that taking out the right teams in the right order is going to be the biggest difference for them. That is a nice knock onto Frex, though. It opens up some really nice safety for the Guard, as now they've got even more distance between them and other squads.
I was about to say, that's a far knock, right on the actual other side of this zone, right in the heart of launch site. Dropped, likely going to be able to sustain. Pick that one right back up. You can see with the charge rifle, Keon says no. Gonna have to pull back for the time. Beyond reward himself with the bat on that Evo there. But this just goes to show the punishment in store for Space Station Gaming. We talk about this rotation and the teams that are focusing on the area immediately. You can see down to one, remember there, a quick heal, Frex up, the zone pushing, and the Guard continuing to put.
Well, SSG just aren't having any fun. Not at all. It is a quick finish off as the double charge rifling squad of the Guard is not letting anyone in this lobby enjoy themselves. Rambo's even empowered enough to just go ahead and push forward with the Valkyrie as well. Gets this extra mobility. In comes that EMP. Does get canceled. But the Guard have so much space to work with. So much cover provided by the constant charge rifling of Keon and RK. And that Rambo gets a sick crack in the meantime before ultimately retreating back up to this high ground. Stormtroopers starting to fire back, as well as Rambo eating shots in the rear. Means that they've got to back off for just a minute, instead committing to this fight onto Stormtroopers low ground. Prophet full thirsted. SSG taken out meanwhile, but the Guard may have given up too much high ground. They're getting wrapped around on by Complexity, and Time Chamber racing up to this height is going to be able to find a nice head peek onto the members of the Guard. Gets knocked instantly, though. That's Rambo for you, and the Guard pushed right back on forward, claiming the territory as they did before.
They called it out from the beginning here, and in their final moments of game one, have what could be considered a predictable win there from that zone.
That was such a sick ending for them as well. It looked almost risky, I'm going to call it. As soon as Complexity started to push up, Guard seemed like they were getting ahead of themselves, but it's clear that they had planned it out as we get to watch this all happen again from the beginning.
There was so many moments there where I genuinely was listening and going, why are they allowed to do this? Rambo was just running down that low ground right out in the open, trying to provide that damage with the Mastiff there. And so many of these teams, between Complexity to Stormtroopers to the remnants of TL and SSG, no one is finding any kind of shots there, even on that man. It's just because of the pressure he exudes, running and gunning and just eliminating.
It was really smart play from every member of the Guard in this end zone. Something they got set up for them in the replay before that we saw with them pushing up into Optic Gaming. Real nice Renox there from Keon. This constant pressure applied by the double charge rifle just to let the Guard become unleashed. And then when it gets into the end game zones, you go, all right, well, we've got plenty of car ammunition, so why not just run it down at them?
I mean, at that point, you already knew you were at a strong numbers advantage, and props where it is due there. Complexity made the right choice. They see the rotation down towards the low. Stormtroopers are obviously getting capitalized on. They didn't know it was as clean as we did, kind of having that dramatic irony, but for them, it was a chance to be on that high ground, to have a position above the guard for a slight moment to maybe provide the damage that would have led them to their win.
Yeah, we talked about it. Actually, as soon as Complexity hit that rock, we went, that's a head peek. They could actually use that to great effect, but the guards' confidence and I think their callouts specifically on how weak the member of Complexity was in front of them really let them have an almost SCN type of swing from earlier, where trusting in each other, they get to go for the peak at the same time. 13 kills in game number 1 gives the guard a 25-point head start on the rest of the lobby.
I was curious because a good majority of their kills were really sourced out there in the late game between what was both Stormtroopers and Complexity Gaming, wiping both of those squads in their entirety. The rest of that from what was their rotation to kind of get the one-off on towards Optic in when they took Dome away. The rest was just punishment from afar, you know, taking advantage of the charge rifle, just laying in the bits and pieces of damage where they could be found to wipe anybody.
I mean, really impressive performance from the guards. Stormtroopers, though, right behind, aren't getting nearly enough credit for where they finished. Because despite the fact that they were not, much like Complexity from earlier, the ones to finish right up next to the guard, they still put up an impressive amount of kills for a team that, much like guard above them, had prioritized zone early and were sitting in what is an even more difficult to be active from position down at Baby Dome.
And they're not even in Pro League. As a challenger circuit team, stuff like that, Dia, it gets my gears a-turning here when we start talking about the upcoming qualifiers in January. A squad like that has got some serious chances.
We've got them to look forward to, and we've got Game 2 to look forward to when we come back from a short break. Shots in the rear means that they've got to back off for just a minute, instead committing to this fight onto Stormtroopers low ground. Prophet full thirsted, SSG taken out meanwhile, but the guard may have given up too much high ground. They're getting wrapped around on by Complexity, and Time Chamber racing up to this height is going to be able to find a nice head peek onto the members of the guard. Gets knocked instantly, though. That's Rambo for you, and the guard pushed right back on forward, claiming the territory as they did before.
They called it out from the beginning here, and in their final moments of Game 1, what could...
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Oversight, where Dia and Zephyr have the absolute pleasure of presenting to you some of the best Apex Legends around, with the guard picking up a spicy win just last game, and Stormtroopers coming up behind them in second. Zephyr, I was talking to you about this in the break. There were some ridiculous numbers and some ridiculous strats put up there. We talked about the double charge rifle, double car, but I wanted to shout out Keon for putting up just over 2,000 damage in that game alone.
Wait, a fantastic stat to look at there. 2K is incredibly impressive. When it is attributed to the charge rifle, though, it gets maybe potentially just a little bit of hate there, as Dia was maybe calling it the degenist of choices.
Yeah,
but it works. I mean, it's necessary. You're that far away from everyone else in zone. You might as well punish them.
It works a little too well, concerningly well, I'll say, for the guard. But remember, this was all preceded by the fact that they got this really excellent spot in zone to use it from. And as we load into game 2, I am curious about the guard's replication of this, because the guard is certainly consistent. We've got a lot of other teams here that are going to be hungry, and more importantly, Zephyr, are going to be angry after getting charge rifled in game number 1.
I have to say, though, that is a rough zone to start out with. It's not particularly often that we find our way down to the dome. It doesn't really leave a lot of options available. We saw how guard literally called that one out from the get-go, decide to put themselves directly in that POI after taking down what was Optic, and then they were rewarded with the win. I mean, they did a great job applying pressure super well to all these teams, not letting them get free rotations off, and that is a credit. But there's a lot of these other zones that do allow for, I would say, more survivability, especially in some of these later end games.
Yeah, really solid play as well. I know we called this out in the moment, but it didn't get enough appreciation long term from Esports Arena and Optic Gaming, both on their respective pushes into Dome. Very good, very fast decisions being made by the squad, and most importantly, coordinated ones. And the chances that we get to see that again are pretty high based on what we already have witnessed in game number 1, but that's if Esports Arena can make it out of this situation alive. They are right next door to Stormtroopers, and with both squads fighting with the loot they got just off drop, it's hard to say who comes out on top.
And mind you, HCE were here earlier in game 1, just outside the tunnel, where we saw a lot of these exchanges taking place, now heightening even further. Oni from below looking for the climb up there. Oh, doesn't quite get the damage down with the star, but right into the heart of that ordnance might be the opening that Stormtroopers need.
Sosei dropping right onto that thermite. Does make him back off, though. Gets that knock with the arc star onto Naughty. Capra down as well. And as Phony tries once more, it'd be the second time this week I saw him do it, to 1v2. He's not going to quite be able to do this with the loot that he picked up. That's a win for Stormtroopers, and it looks like it might have been just in time, as I'm not seeing anyone on highlights just yet. I'm going to hold my thoughts, though, as we may be getting a third party yet.
Complexity here, maybe a little bit robbed, maybe a little bit mean after seeing that leaderboard. They want to finish the job, so it cannot take place here. One remaining member of Stormtroopers, Dan, right into the caves ahead for Complexity. We'll hold on for the time being. This is still a huge punishment towards this particular roster, especially if they stick around the area. It's still early. There's the potential for recovery. Not quite sure.
Still does have, I believe, one beacon as well, but oh my god, what is going on here? SSG just straight up raw land themselves on top of Furia, and Smoke provides some decent cover for you to get out, taking up this zip line. I'm surprised that Watson makes it all the way up alive. Now we've got a hole up, something that Furia are very unused to doing, as quite suddenly they found themselves in an engagement they weren't looking for.
I will say these buildings can be a little bit harder to press on if you're more defensively oriented. For Furia, it is straight damage, run and gun style here, but it doesn't look like they're being pressed on just yet. Dark Zero is slightly making their way, and the guard was forced to rotate back. Similar building out towards west side. We got a little bit of a standoff here now beginning to form, especially towards the ending of this particular zone and countdown.
A nice early rotate, though, from the guard, and I'm definitely concerned for other teams that might want to take their title from Game 1 moving into Game 2. SSG and the guard, interestingly enough, again finding themselves on opposite sides of what looks like could be the final zone, and both with their respective high grounds. I'm just hoping the guard don't have charge rifles again, because SSG certainly remember the feeling of that.
Well, unlikely this time around. This zone definitely a little bit closer and more of a gentleman's agreement likely to take place, as you stepping out of line is something that rewards an immediate source of damage that other teams will capitalize on as well. Back towards frag here. Everyone's starting to rotate. Complexity pulling away from their early damage down towards Stormtroopers. HCE have opted out from that geyser kind of start. We see them play through, straight through the tunnels. Maybe about to intercept what might be TSM ahead here. Landslide in this particular opening. Being late to countdown is rough because you put yourself in this area right here, which is very, very difficult.
TSM opting into the high ground right now. It puts them
yeah.
in a great spot to be able to gatekeep HEC, but it's not a particularly safe one when considering the long term. This back away from HEC puts them in arguably a worse position, though, so I don't hate it. At least you've doomed one squad to have to move all the way back and into Fragment, where we already know there's a potential sandwich making its way forward. Enemies got a good idea, though, being able to rotate around into this choke. Great scout from this Valkyrie, and another push going on over here as 100 Thieves get put in a corner by Dark Zero, who are currently trying to claim the caves for the short term.
Now, Dark Zero, they had set up in that cart ahead here and opt to turn right back around, seeing potentially the opportunity to punish out this squad here for 100 Thieves. They've already invested in the castle wall, and now all stuck in the same spot. Just some well-placed ordinances would do them potentially in here. Still being pressured back now with some defense to spare in the caves. They won't be leaving anytime soon.
Dark Zero don't have too much loot to spare. Their sustain is really high, but those ordinances that you talked about, they did not take the time to collect. Instead, expecting that they would be stuck in more wars of attrition over the long term. In the short term, though, HEC are rucking up on this and actually end up finding their sights trained on Dark Zero. Just now noticing the 100 Thieves are right next to them. They'll trade a fair amount of damage with both teams, but the new castle from 100 Thieves actually keeping them way healthier as Crook. I can't say the same for him.
This kind of goes back to what I was trying to set up earlier on. We talked about landslide zones, far too open, so many long-distance angles that allow for punishment. Back here, though, towards Tree, G2 capitalizing on that late roto in here from Luma. Already finding good damage down, a bit of that crack. Resulta, though! Drop Neasel with the Peacekeeper.
Jaguares now down. And with G2 on the ropes, we could actually see a very different type of contest take place. So often it's going to be coming down to the in-zone fights, but now on the edge, Luminosity may be going out. G2 take them down with a sick fry from Chaotic, and we're into the top 18.
Chaotic from above, making short work there for G2. The spoils now to their victor, but still quite a distance to go. And we talk about a lot of the setup from most of these teams already well in place. Back when we looked at, yes, the Guard, Furia, SSG, and many others. TL, outskirts of Trials for now.
Take a look back at that. Chaotic once again demonstrating the value that they've brought to G2 in this year. Their reset won't take too long. They've got the nice long road ahead of them to bring them into zone. HEC, though, can't necessarily say the same. Close range fight with BR Demons as Reeds does end up popping up onto the roof, giving BR Demons complete control of this building, complete control of HEC, and no more EMP to throw out to sort of change that. It should be a simple to execute fight for BR Demons, but they're the ones that have to be most careful of a third party.
Just kind of getting the whiff of what I can see there down on their alt charges, it looks like they might have chased something out or utilized them to put themselves in this position, because I was curious, maybe Aiden with his singularity, that kind of wombo combo right into the heart of this building could be so good to just finish what is the last remnants of HEC here. But it doesn't change the fact, whether it be now, whether it be later, the rotation ahead here for HCC is going to be really difficult.
BR Demons just maintaining control. They don't have the same flexibility of a lot of other squads, being one of our teams that are not picking up the Valk. So we'll have to play things a little bit more controlled. I suspect that they're looking for kills here, but just don't know exactly how they want to go about it yet. They've got shield advantage. They've got really everything. But as we know, one misstep could cost them their lives. It is going to have to be a decision that gets made in the next couple minutes, though, as Zone 2, well, it won't straight up take out any of these squads on its own, is going to start applying that pressure to move yourself even further down towards Countdown.
And I will say, it's a bit of a mixed zone here. It is the split between Countdown, one that you see now being contested here. TL, we last checked in with them on Trials, making their way forward. Energy caught with their pants down, it looks like. Already, Nathan, sweet, removed from play.
TL in a good position right outside, do find themselves right next to a whole lot of other squads, but most importantly, the ones in charge of this building. Because of this, they'll be able to set up in a way that allows them flexibility should the zone pull even further south. And I'm not saying that it's likely to pull south, Zephyr, but what I am saying is that I've seen a lot of really wonky zones recently, and if it does happen, Team Liquid will be in a good position. BR Demons have finally pulled the trigger in the meantime, though, and HEC are taken down in quick fashion. As soon as we cut away from them, BR Demons go, great, no one's watching us anymore. They stop feeling observed, and they go for it.
Well, at the end, we knew it was coming here. We called it out from the get-go. They controlled the fate of the spot. For Sentinels, this looks like a hearty rotation from the other side of Skyhook. One maybe a little too long, little too late there, dropping right in the crutches of Countdown. You could see one remaining. Good knockdown play here.
7 seconds left on this bubble that actually might be able to get them a res. Sentinels being pressured from the other side makes this ever so slightly more difficult, but with MPS now thinking about pushing it, out goes that res, and in comes the push. Pow Pow eats a little bit of damage from above. Shubi doing the same, but Sentinels do get taken down before their bubble expires, giving a good amount of time for MPS to pick up some nice loot before ultimately rotating right back to where they came from.
Good safety there. You got to be a little bit careful, though. Landslide is particularly open from that angle. You can immediately see Zen with the immaculate long-distance knock there with the longbow. I'm more than sure that we'll see this revive come through here in just a moment for MPS. They do survive, but read like that, SSG. It could set up.
Looks like yet another aggressive push. We saw them try landing on Furia earlier, and now have the opportunity to drop down yet again. I'd be a little bit hesitant about it, but the thing is, not a whole lot of third parties in the area. The biggest concern for SSG has to be that they'd be giving up this spot on the high ground and putting themselves in a position where they can no longer effectively Valcult, because you can take shots at them from above. They're going to instead choose to stay up here, hoping that the 3 KP that they wanted to collect doesn't end up biting them later, but we get the chance to look back over at Guard, who's sitting in Lava Fissure. Actually have themselves a good spot again if this zone pulls south, as it appears to continue doing.
I was about to say, this kind of read is something that might provide the benefits towards the end here. That's why this contest, G2 trying to ride up ever so slowly. Sometimes, yes, we do see teams invest in that cart ahead there to allow for some survivability. Just depends on how much space the Guard is taking up, how much damage they begin to lay down with that EMP. I like this. Rambo and Keon already beginning to find angles, but with damage put down Rambo, this should be the opening G2 needs to get themselves up there.
The Guard know that they've got to move as well. They're not the only ones. BR Demons trying to make their moves into the zone, find themselves hard kept out by Complexity. And again, no Valcult on this team, so BR Demons are going to have to fight their way out of this on their own. They've got a little bit of time to heal up, but not too much when it comes down to the zone. Maybe a quick rotation over to Landslide, but spotting out that the squad in front of them is there. We're going to look to take a different rotation. SSG out in the meantime, and it's a push for the low ground that took him out.
Right. That was what I wanted to talk about. We didn't quite catch it there, but last time we checked in, MPS were stuck and being aptly dropped in tow. You saw Xenial for a second find that with the longbow shot, but with recovery, MPS, they make the exchange, find their way up, go for the push, and with success, eliminate Complexity with their own rotation forward here. Surprisingly, didn't take as much damage as I would have assumed. A good mobile shield will provide them with a slight chance to get some recovery off. Missiles down here, and just a moment more to spare.
Are Complexity going to be able to set up the castle wall, though? That's a really big concern, as this gen isn't going to last forever, and Ordinances will still put down an incredible amount of value onto this team. For the moment, Complexity have found themselves, I hesitate to call it safety, but at least reprieve as they continue to pop bats, and finally that angle does get taken away from them. Heals being canceled as well. Out comes yet another mobile shield, and you have to imagine the cooldown just isn't there at this point. We may be seeing the end of the squad.
Monsoon taking huge damage doesn't spell well. Meanwhile, Dark Zero, we talk about a slow rotation. They're still all the way on the edge across Landslide here. Now, obviously, yes, there it is. The redeploy is available and going to be coming through there. Where they land, though, going to be even more difficult. Here's some of these other squads. Furia with big rotations. The Guard even further north, directly into the heart of Fissure for now. Now stacked on top of each other. Defense down with the fence line, but See how long that lasts.
Arasuno taken out very quickly as well. G2 from this high ground are surely wondering where the guard went, but now having to face off against two squads right next door to them should they push up into Lava Fissure. Things do continue to be risky for them. MPS are fighting again for this high ground and taking out BR Demons by doing it. Unfortunately for them, a third party from SZN is quick to come through, and now SZN, barely having taken any damage, get to turn right back around and maybe even find another fight.
For SCN here, last time we checked in with them, they were rolling for just as far south of a zone as teams like the Guard, and instead with some quick reads, turn right back round, steal this one away from MPS, who they themselves on their own against SSG. Meanwhile, forced what is Dark Zero. Some final kills coming through. One last rat remaining here for them. This at least takes them out of the way of what was a slight low ground disadvantage in terms of the angles coming through from above there.
I'm surprised that Stormtroopers are still alive. That's what Dark Zero just picked up some kills on, and the fact that they've still made it in despite being almost taken down entirely by Complexity early on is impressive enough, making it into the top 11, picking up a few placement points. One more squad drop would mean the Stormtroopers get a doubling of their placement points as of right now, but an interesting rotation for the Guard may be denying them just that. RKN on Flesh right now, going to be attempted to be body blocked by Rambo, but it doesn't happen in time. Instead, a res looking unlikely means that Keon's got to play defense while Rambo tries to find some sort of way to pick up RKN, their IGL.
And the Guard just trying to find a spot they can call a happy home here. Meanwhile, G2 likely to do the same. Both of these squads really investing towards the south side, and now forced to rotate early, forced to take some nasty spots as a last chance available there for G2. Chaotic will fall once again, fully wiped in tow. Furia on their way out from their building with massive damage to punish. Gisalto holding off for the time being. Tick.
This stymieing of the push from G2, though, has given Guard its crucial time to reset, and 100 Thieves still on the backs of G2, with a Kraber, no less, are causing some serious problems. We've already got RKN back in the fight, and G2, as just a two-man, are going to wrap around on this, maybe finding some knocks again, but seriously having to play it safe. They cannot mess around at this point. G2, their fun is over, because right now they've got to operate from a deficit. Optic not looking like they're having too much fun either. Defensive composition, great RV in most scenarios, but this time, just not exactly the same. An Oob play coming in from 100 Thieves, as that is definitely not inbounds for long, has them dropping right back down into Countdown and actually finding a little bit of safety. I don't think anyone saw that.
Meanwhile, the zone finally closing in, forcing the rotation from several squads. Optic obviously losing out on this spot that they held onto, the first to be punished there. One last remaining member right around the corner. The Guard finding their initial knocks with TSM. Southside landslide finally here to play. Already with damage down. Stormtroopers eliminated.
That's problematic, of course, but really good for Stormtroopers again, I will say, picking up the 2 placement points from their current position. TSM still hoping to get aggressive, do get a good crack right now, and this could even be the Guard that they're pushing up on. They were holding down in that checkpoint. For now, Dark Veil separating this out is a really good play from TSM, allowing them to get a little bit more aggressive for these thirsts, for this final knock, eliminating finally Optic Gaming in their entirety, but still baiting in a push. Out goes the Horizon, coming up a little bit short, and TSM can't get aggressive as they would like. Still holds people uncomfortably close, and Reps pulling up that shield swap, now tries to get aggressive yet again. Coming around the corner, it's Hal that goes down first with equal knocks on both sides. Reps finds Flex, eliminating the Guard. TSM turning it around just in time. 7 squads left, and TSM don't look like they'll be joining us. G2 trying to take a fight in a 2v2. Take out Reps, come around the corner onto Hal, and take him down, taking down TSM.
It's a perfect third-party situation, and the squad that seemed like they had their backs the most up against the wall is the only one to stay alive from the south. For G2, they are rewarded a surplus of inventory to go forward here. 5 squads remaining. You can see it there on the right. Complexity, Dark Zero, G2 Season, and TL. The majority stuck in the heart here of Countdown. Ring already closing through.
And TL with a bonkers amount of damage, considering that they are just 2 people at this point. I suspect trying to find some way to get Their fallen member right back into the game. These fries from Hakulo are causing serious problems, though, and G2 flying in on the high ground, maybe just the distraction that these other squads need, landing basically on top of SCN and fighting for the high ground. Design gets destroyed. Now, they have just a little bit of safety. I hesitate to even call it that as Valk pops up over top of them, and Resulta has to pop this bat, still almost being shooed through by those missiles.
I can't believe they're allowed to get this up.
It's BS.
I can't believe Season doesn't capitalize at all. Punished out from the other angles here. G2 sit alive on top of the silos.
And it's such a good position for them. Look at where the ring is going. G2 aren't going to have to move for such a long time. They're finding kills in the meanwhile as Sykes gets taken down. And, well, I don't see that thirst just yet. It's going to be real difficult to find a res at this point in the game. With the castle wall available for G2 momentarily as well, they'll have even more cover, but they're trying to put pressure down onto SCN. The biggest threat is right underneath them, and TL are taken down. We're into the top 4.
Complexity trying to make their way forward. This might be the reason why SCN couldn't do much of anything there. These angles providing damage where it counts. Oh, Chaotic's gotta be careful. Can't quite peek like that. Missiles down, mobile shield available, and the slow heals coming out here. Round 6, our final zone. Finally starting to close.
Watch where this castle wall gets placed. We know it's available, but Chaotic being taken down right now causes a problem. Gold knockdown is huge. This is going to be such a good pickup if it happens. Chaotic gets thirst in the meanwhile, and it's Dark Zero that pick up the kill. This is a big turn out of the favor of G2. Looking at everyone else in the lobby, especially Dark Zero, for how they'll capitalize on this. As G2 do have those resources to work with, but now are not nearly as easy to fight with as SCN.
Dark Zero, though, we haven't talked about them finally starting to lose out on their cover that they've had for quite some time. Forced to drop back down to the low ground here. Potentially the perfect opportunity for SCN to find their damage. Still, though, silos, nothing. Complexity out from their corner in the valley. Everybody slowly beginning to stack on top of one another. I like this castle wall, though, from Complexity.
The one Valk going down onto the low ground. Complexity, like you talked about, in full control of this zone. Keeping their eyes out on SCN. G2, not even a question anymore, as Dark Zero destroy the remainder of that squad. It's down to our top 3, and Complexity are still in such a good position. They've got that mobile shield as well, and are playing patiently around it. Dark Zero, Complexity even collaborating, taking out SCN, who are sandwiched between them. And now that they're down to the top 2, it's time for the full push. Complexity lose 1. It's a full push from Dark Zero, and they're taking control of the game, moving down onto Luxford. It's one member left for Complexity, and one member might be all they need. Dark Zero take them out, finding the win in game 2.
From the low ground below, Dark Zero climb up, pressed against the wall, and eliminate Complexity, even though they had control of everything.
What a nice finish for Dark Zero. You were talking about this, Zephyr, and I was in exactly the same boat. How on earth are they supposed to survive moving out from the low ground like that? They've got no cover, they've got no Newcastle, they've got no Gibby, and somehow Dark Zero are able to survive where 19 other teams were not.
I have to say, I look back towards those final moments there. The castle wall for Complexity is available. It's in use there, and it is providing a decent source of defense that was going to last for what I can only assume maybe 5 to 6 seconds longer there. We do see Lux go for a wide swing onto Season in the end there, and that opened up their backside to be capitalized on from that last-minute climb from Dark Zero. I'm telling you right now, Dia, had Complexity maybe just bared down for just 2 to 3 seconds longer, Dark Zero, we didn't get quite the best read on how much they had left alive from that low. Maybe could have potentially been taken out instead.
Just taking a look at how exactly this went down again. Luxford, even in the end, was playing at a very slight numbers disadvantage. Just the 1v2, not giving him enough angles to play the game inside the knockdown shield. So close for Complexity. And yet again, Zephyr, a top finish for them. I believe that's the second game in a row that they finished in second place.
Hey, Complexity, they've got their read. They know how to control it, especially we give them credit where it's due. That's a hard building on the south side to find all angles. You got teams trying to rush through. We saw the guard and everyone competing down there that could have at any point climbed their way up there, and they were able to hold that one down. Baird, as well as the other squads from opposite sides of Countdown. So while Complexity don't walk away with the highest points from this game, it is still a consistency that should be rewarded.
Yeah, I mean, this is, again, one of those things that I'm sure we're going to talk about later where we go, yes, Complexity are a good team. I don't know how long this is going to last, and I'm really, really hesitant to put more eggs in this basket because of what we've seen so recently. MPS coming up right behind them, and Team Liquid having a nice way of regaining some points after last game. What I'm noticing, though, is that nowhere in the top 10 are the Guard to be found. After their win in game number 1, they got only 3 points this game.
And this might be the perfect opportunity now. We talk about the Guard losing out on what could be that first place position, that coveted spot that they held on to after game 1.
Thank you for giving us the teaser, Zephyr, because we've got a treat for you guys. We've got those overall leaderboards when we get back from a break in just a few minutes. Gaming in their entirety, but still baiting in a push. Out goes the Horizon, coming up a little bit short, and TSM can't get aggressive as they would like. Still holds people uncomfortably close, and Reps pulling off that shield swap now tries to get aggressive yet again. Coming around the corner, it's Hal that goes down first with Equinox on both sides. Reps finds Flex, eliminating the Guard. TSM turning it around just in time. 7 squads left, and TSM don't look like they'll be joining us. G2 trying to take a fight in a 2v2. Take out Reps, come around the corner onto Hal, and take him down, taking down TSM.
It's a perfect third part.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to jump into Game 3 of Oversight, and before we do, we've got to take a look at those overall leaderboards. You know exactly what's up, Zephyr. Dark Zero now tied with the Guard at the top after both teams have secured some pretty impressive wins.
I'm surprised to see them still tied. The Guard retaining their own position up there as well, and the fact that Complexity, after appearing in the top 2 times around, now hosting the most placement points overall, are still tied for second with G2.
Yeah, right? The fact that these two teams are so close to each other, that even all of these top teams are so close to each other, is something that I think we get used to saying in Oversight, and we start taking for granted at the professional level of play, but is still very difficult to replicate outside of top lobbies in North America. But I'll tell you what, the other thing that's impressing me, Stormtroopers sitting at 5th right now. We're 2 games deep. We're jumping into our last one on World's Edge. But this is a great start for a team that I'll remind everyone is in the Challenger circuit.
Oh my gosh. And it almost sounds scary there when you bring it up once again. The fact that so many of these squads are struggling with what might become now potentially a new threat to behold, especially when we start talking about split 2. But I've run that round and round in terms of a narrative. Our dropship is making its way through for one final time here on World's Edge. You can already see that we're getting a little bit of a repeat on the zone.
Curious how much of a repeat we're getting. I know that zone caught a lot of teams off guard. You could tell by watching. I've hopped on this a little bit, but I'm going to do it one more time. Specifically the guard and how they moved, because they full on sent it into countdown, and as that zone started pulling south, went all the way into Lava Fissure, then moved their way all the way back up. And this is a team, as a lot of these squads are, that really know their end zones. The fact that that last pull psyched out so many different squads was really scary for several of them. Even TSM, who tried to move their way in from the south.
It is totally a viable ending for that zone there. I will say there is a slight disparity that does occur where you get a more of a that right there. You get much more of this western wall in play when you're going to be having it slightly drift down towards that southern side. So for any of our teams, start looking towards where those beacons are. These early reads, especially playing towards the south side, can be more advantageous this time around.
Energy are definitely going to have theirs sitting at staging. They've got that second zone pull already. And I tell you what, Zephyr, I'm looking at this map, and I think we go a little bit more Lava Fissure this time around. And you know what? If I'm wrong, we just won't bring it up later. So let's find out whether it happens a little bit later on. NRG are actually going to be making their rotation out through the hot springs right now, potentially putting themselves in a position like that. But SSG do have pick of the litter when it comes to zones like this.
I will say I'm a little bit scared. It's been a hot minute since I've seen Energy go deep for the heart of a zone like this, and especially with this composition to have to hold out. Obviously, they got the back end of that Watson to make pretty here, and that Loba does find its effective nature the longer the game goes on. But, I mean, they're one click away from bad punishment, especially from a team that is more set up.
Guard are making their way in as well, but with 3 different squads already setting themselves up in Fissure, it may be that they've got to take a little bit more of a roundabout way in. Got RKN in the front looking for a free building. Drone's going to be out soon, and Furia, who were just over by countdown, should have the opportunity to scout themselves out another building as well. Easy and quick rotates from those close by, but for Complexity, who are caught right in the middle of the map, this is going to be a significantly harder game to play.
This is the thing about Complexity here. It's a wide rotation for them, and they need to find their way in sometime soon. The biggest punishment of this roster, something that's stunted them from being at the tippity top, even though they've been second 2 times around, is the fact that they don't rack much of anything on their way forward here. The fact that they are turn tail and run any chance they get to set themselves up for that prime positioning. So yes, for now, it's fine. Obviously, you can see in response, no further aggression to take place here. But I would like to see the improvement in terms of the 3v3 stability for this roster at some point.
I tell you what, we're likely going to get at least a few 3v3s coming from the south side here. A lot of folks rotating through the Harvester area right now. TSM and HEC right next to each other, but we saw Stormtroopers coming up right behind HEC, and MPS just down in the south, rotating up by Thermal. A lot of teams are going to be moving their way through staging and its associated areas, likely trying to prioritize places like the train track and the Dorito building right outside of staging to gatekeep other squads. HEC, unfortunately, finding themselves on all-white shields, aren't going to have the easiest time doing it, but this squad was exceptional at gatekeeping in the qualifiers.
Need to get themselves better set, though. That can't be more stated there, like you said. For TSM, this is a team that is more apt to be in a better position, especially in that regard. Already, though, taking a huge chunk of damage from the backside. And whoa! Taking place in maybe a second flat there. Season completely wiped in full. SSG.
Yeah, we know that. There we go. We know that these two squads are right next to each other. I was wondering exactly how Season got themselves in a position between these two teams. Right now, I'm just checking out the death boxes that we see are on the bridge right now, but running through the open like that really costs Season a lot in this game. Not just their lives, but the opportunity at points later on. They haven't even collected placement points in game number 3, and that is a sudden downturn for this squad where SSG may be able to find a bit of an upturn for themselves. See what this ticks for as Complexity are making their rotation in. They eat the missile barrage, they eat the EMP. This just isn't fun for anyone. And the nade comes in before the generator is even down. Complexity have got one knocked. Does anyone push this?
I don't think you do here, because they're already set up in such a way with some of those buildings that you get a repeat of what occurs to Season there, out into the open, but straight into the paws or claws of so many of these other squads.
Well, Complexity are in a really tough spot right now, so let's take a listen in with them and see how they're dealing with the situation.
It's the house team? Okay. Oh, it's the firehouse team. Rush.
Yeah. I'm keeping it because they EMP'd us already.
From the north too.
They're going out to the rock.
That's fine. All right, cool, good. Okay, the only thing we have to worry about is that angle right there. But we just have safe spots on me too.
It's like really safe right here.
Holy shit, nice, dude. Let's go. Good fucking recovery.
I'm one shot off of blue, so if you see shots, let me know. Break out these doors when you get a chance to,
Yeah,
man.
I'm doing it.
On drones.
Same.
Out their
Nice.
top. Get their bottom after. I'd have shots.
There's a team underneath.
Yeah.
This
They
spot.
have a valve, okay? So they can look at that at any point during the game, so.
Complexity making a really good call on how they were resetting there, not choosing to waste any of the ultic cells, but whoa, their reset just finished. We've got other teams that may not even make it up to them. G2 losing one member in a fight up against MPS. It seemed no MPS getting involved from a long way away. That charge rifle starting to come in, and now the push up onto G2. It's a great Skynade, but one that G2 simply can't take advantage of, with yet another squad looking for them, attracting a little bit of attention on top. We've still got the chance for a push right now as Madness finds that knock, and an aggressive Newcastle ult doesn't work, leaving, unfortunately, Madness to clean up on their own. Luminosity still do leave us, though, and G2 on the retreat right now do collect at least one of those kills.
Hey, but at the end of the day, it's the perfect situation for MPS here. They haven't quite finished off the remnants of G2, but you can spell them out only a click away. Hovering inside this building, might not have the scans, but they know right where they went. The door's breaking down, the mobile shield in play, and a Resulta beamed and reamed here. Pow from below, coming through the backside, and Chaotic out as well as G2 are quickly spotted out, and eliminated.
Can I just say that Chaotic did almost kill two people there. Madness and Pow went in with 400 health combined and left with maybe 30 total. The fact that it takes an entire squad to safely take down Chaotic is something that I'm going to continue to look forward to, because it is not the last we've seen of G2, though it is on World's Edge. Stormpoint still coming up after this is their chance for redemption. As we take a second to reset and look at the map moving forward, we've got this zone that's continuing to pull towards Complexity that we got the chance to listen in with just that little bit earlier, who are prioritizing their position really well, not only looking for those Evo shields, but noting that their biggest threats are going to come from the south.
Yeah, I was about to say, we talk about the dominance of the rotation zone, what's most common to happen. You pull back behind where you see Complexity towards that cart, towards the building that NRG are set up in, and you get this kind of three-way split as these teams are all forced to come in with each other, while there's also that low ground fissure that exists in play for some teams to kind of rat out and then go for maybe a last-second grav lift or redeploy to put themselves in play as well. Still, that is a ways away here. For teams like Optic, they're on the edge, just finding their way out of Fragment. Such the same for a team like Esports Arena.
These two squads likely going to mirror each other as well, both running the Valk, and we'll see what happens with Esports Arena and what they're scouting out, because Optic are likely going to encounter the very same thing. This Valk ult providing a whole lot of safety and coverage of these wide open areas. The scan's super reliable in a situation like this. And Esports Arena get their safe touchdown, a crafter right next to them as well, and plenty of height to be able to harass these teams in front of them from afar.
Still, though, it gets a bit rougher here. We talk about the future rotation ahead for ESA. We know they're going to have to give up landslide at some given point, and into what you see just ahead of what Capra's laying out there. So many of these squads are already set up in a prime position. Meanwhile, for Sentinels, late rotation pinched once again. Feels like deja vu after last game. In between so many squads, that defensive bombardment there doesn't quite capitalize or find the damage necessary. Exist for now.
Zen's probably not going to get anything here, but we had another squad. There they are, Team Liquid, just off to the north, that are finding great angles on this team. Sentinels unlikely to be able to recover specifically because of the charge rifle right now.
Yeah.
Just an impossible situation. I know they're trying to pull off this res, and for the moment, re-knock not going to happen, but Newcastle wall going down. Is this actually happening, Zephyr?
For some way here, especially in the face of that mobile shield, it's double defense down, and with the dome, it is a recovery for Sentinels, likely in full here. It's still, though, a huge problem. You set it up perfectly. TL, with an angle like this, always going to be super punishing at any stage of the game. A charge rifle like that from Noct, always going to be finding damage. You can see Sykes already setting up as well. We're going to get some multi-combos here from several teams.
Counter to Newcastle's abilities is shooting your gun at them, and that is increasingly becoming a problem for Sentinels, but that Gibby bubble is providing an extra layer of safety that just pays off beautifully.
Ooh.
This zone pull, however, is good. Oh my, no! No!
How? Why?
Oh no, that's unfortunate. They were doing so well too. I was so happy.
Oh, that... And the crazy thing is the zone, it doesn't go the dominant pull. It goes back into Fissure itself. We get the POI direct finish, and it's something that Sen could have potentially, with the right timing, maybe found a good walk into here. Sadly, very unlikely to get that third back into play in their final moments now. Oh, don't do it. Don't do this.
Again, at
Guys.
how it happens. Our cruel, cruel observers highlighting it once more. A shout out to the production team at Oversight who make things like this possible, as the BR Demons are taking a cinematic look at a fight inside. It's MPS that they're going up against, and Aiden, shot at from a third party, does have to call off what was a really good flank otherwise, one that very well could have won BR Demons this fight. With the Seer ult in their pocket, they've got great data on where MPS are and are able to play defensively to great effect. But unfortunately, the attention that both these teams have attracted from afar could cause some serious problems. We've seen Optic pull off third parties before, and they are brutal.
Yeah, at this point, both squads should know that there's no chance in hell that they should be fighting this one out here, especially in this moment. BR Demons already beginning to try to form more angles, especially with this rotation finally coming through. A drop down, Noct already set up in full position. You can see, yes, on the backside there, BR already finding their own source of relevancy from the south side, but still, this is a very big issue as Optic now begins to take that slight high ground on the ridge that lays ahead of both of these squads.
Esports Arena trying to push right now onto Karasuno. Do have a good spot to do so, but unfortunately one that isn't in zone. 4 seconds left, and the real Titan's grip of the zone in front of them is going to make things stressful on a timer.
Whoa.
For MPS, who are currently gone. Same thing can be said for them. Esports Arena do lose Capra very quickly, and in the midst of the smoke, can't really take a moment to reset. Naughty taking the 1v1 off on the side, doesn't quite win it, but instead gets a little bit of assistance, a little bit of love from Countdown, as Wave's shields do get shredded. Meanwhile, this may very well be TSM walking up. Very few catalysts in this lobby, and Karasuno get ready for the defensive play of their lives, getting prepared with that EMP and still throwing out some shots. James Fearless overextends, but it was TSM from the back, and they punished Fearless.
Al there with that first knock, and now Karasuno forced to rotate out. You can see the shots from behind that lay in with rotation like that. Surprisingly, Davis, with only a fragment of health left to play, is allowed to get that bat off. Meanwhile, for Optic, they pulled away from that initial fight. We did see MPS fall in their moments, and from below, Phony taken in tow.
This is real,
wow.
real tragic to see Esports Arena fall in this way, but we talked about the zone, the stress that was going to apply to them, and we see it pay off right there. Optic on the low ground, now in a pretty darn stressful situation themselves, trying to fight and maintain not only against squads on the high ground, but those on the low as well. Skittle getting pushed inside the gas has that little bit of extra safety as Karasuno go down. Meanwhile, an extra Arc Star gets tossed in, and Skittlecake continues to clutch it up, finding the knock onto Aiden the Destroyer, popping the bat behind this knockdown shield with the gas still ticking away. Skittlecakes is down to a misplaced knockdown shield. BR Demons are lucky to have clutched that fight.
And for BR Demons, after being punished from afar from Optic, really trying to get their mitts in their exchange between them and MPS, they finally are able to find revenge here. Oh. Just to note, yes, Sentinels were eliminated in the midst of all that action. TL make their way forward and take that spot.
I love our free cam. Our free cam is more brutal.
I was
than
wondering, I
anyone
was
I've
like,
ever met.
what the hell is this? Why are we looking at rocks?
It's the rocks that Sentinels will never forget. Taking a look at this zone, though, we've got some pretty crucial things to highlight here. First of all, that disparity between high and low ground that you talked about earlier, absolutely in play here. With Space Station getting that building just down to the south, they're in a good position, but Complexity we've got to look out for is their stabilization has already gone up, and in the midst of all this chaos, they're the one team that I'm looking at to unseat Space Station right in front of them.
Can I give high praise to Guard, too? They had a much more southern-based position here a moment ago, and if we take a look at that map, you just saw them. Center dome, easily making their way forward, and what could have been punished for a team like Energy a little bit slower to the move forward. You can already see how the damage is coming through in full, and so many of these squads are already going to begin to find their own source of what could be their end here.
Our Demons. Difficulty with the angles for right now. Vayne actually might go down, does go down in fact, but they're not the only ones. TL bite the dust in that time as this zone pulled them out of their hidey hole and right into the line of fire of both Complexity and SSG. BR Demons amidst the smoke are still eating a lot of that area of effect damage as Complexity start to charge over to the south. They're getting real confident out here, and they actually find that knock onto Vayne, letting them reset once again over by this. I hesitate to even call it cover, but it's doing for now.
Meanwhile, on the other side of our zone, TSM trying to find their way in a bit of combat. You can actually see, yes, right there, that exhibit down. Hal completely wiped out in full. You can see Reps and Verholst trying to see if they can start taking up space. They actually might be trying to drop down, see if they can put themselves in this first floor here.
Oh my lord. Verholst turns his back to the danger and now gets lasered out. Reps down 2-0, and even popping in amongst these fences seems safer, but he's going to get pulled right back into it by that black hole. TSM are still fighting for their lives, but are having a real difficult time as finally BR Demons do take them out. Verholst the last one to fall, and Reeds now gets to continue with BR Demons also being a two-man team and pushing down onto Dark Zero. Aiden knows exactly what's going on below them, but as long as BR Demons can maintain pressure, I don't think there's a reason for Dark Zero to push up on them.
I have to give props or two. BR Demons, that was one heck of a rotation from the cross lane there. So many of these squads, as you can see from afar, could have provided shots at any given moment. They take advantage of the chaos out there. Meanwhile, for Complexity, out from the lack of cover there on the train line, straight ahead into the fray here. Lux with the RE45, trying to see if he can find some burns or axes, and instead, they're below. We've got a stacked tiered cake here on the other side of zone.
A really big heads up play from them. Complexity have a space to Dark Zero. Can they find it? HEC cannot as they go down, but Dark Zero trying to push up onto the guard, and despite the fact that Sharky's shields go down, they've done so effectively. They're getting swung on, but the cover, at least from Zero, is big for them.
Oh, big thermite down, some ticks taking place. Jen the first to fall, and it's Vax in combo with Zen here that finds these initial knocks. Zero's on the interior, and he looks like a prisoner. A quick EMP will provide a source of defense, and as it does, it allows him to get Jen Burton back up.
SSG are losing members to Complexity, as we talked about earlier, but it's the guard that go down first, and it's again to the two-man squad of BR Demons. Like you say, Reed's really putting the squad on his back there.
It had to be in combo, something to provide from the damage from the initial exchange. Dark Zero on the rotation, whatever it may be, it's a source of KP that we didn't expect. Dark Zero now focusing on the low ground. That's got to be NRG trying to find their pace above. And I'll tell you what, Dia, usually I would count a duo out, but after BR Demons, I think anyone's ready to play.
Meanwhile, Lux is playing solo footsie with the remaining members of SSG, and 100 Thieves on the edge of zone have mere seconds to pop their heals and get in. High ground is coming at a premium, and it's very few that can still access it. 100 Thieves may be relegated to just playing the low alongside NRG, who currently have found that knock onto Reeds. There's not a lot of cover here. No safety at all. 400 Thieves as they've got to ditch onto this bridge that claimed SCN's life earlier. The temporary Newcastle wall is good, but it's not going to be good enough as they get swung on by Dark Zero.
Straight into a 2v2 situation here. Vax will fall, but not for response on his Zero. Jen will finish the job as the beamer he is, but SSG and Complexity from above find their own success. Furia with this angle as well. Actually, it's Complexity. Did they just finish off SSG?
Yes, they did. Complexity now have the second best position in the lobby, and Furia need to make sure that they're not focused. That's a really good Rolling Thunder, but this Valkyrie from NRG is one that's ultimately placed them on the low ground. The climb may still be possible, and this play from NRG could allow them to pull off an unsuspecting team. Take that carpet right out from under them, but they've got to wait. They've got to play the patience game. Furia still fighting up against Complexity, who have lost their cover. Down goes the Newcastle wall. They've got the high ground. They've got the Bloodhound ult, and it's time for the Dia de Furia. Pander's getting flayed outside. Takes a lot of damage from that thermite scan. Still going to be up very soon, though. And Fury with full information need to find some way to get angles on this squad.
His Watts with big damage. Zero looking low. It might be, yes,
Energy!
the go button here. Energy have climbed up. They've got angles on both of these teams, but they need to finish one straight on top of the car here. Fury eliminated. Turn that right around and find victory from below.
NRG, baby, pulling off that play from the low ground. The Valkyrie looks so perilous, but the fact that they got an angle to climb changed everything. The patience, the plays from the squad taken away from both Furia and Complexity, who had made huge strides to get to where they were.
In the last second here, and I'll be the first to say it, I had no belief from that kind of low ground, from those angles, from all these teams above, that Energy were ever going to get the champs to climb above the rest, but that they did, Dia.
It was a really smart play from them, and again, based in the patience that this squad has. Good IGLing, great calling from them, but they weren't the only ones with this. Listening that we had with Complexity, definitely revealing a whole lot of patience from them as well, and we know that Furia had to really clamor over what was a super chaotic northern side of the map to make it in. Their moves certainly paid off with their placement in the top 3, and BR Demons getting some insane kills this game. I've got that to look forward to on the scoreboard.
Oh, absolutely here. All of these final members of this zone so dominant in what we saw. Complexity with a late rotation to play for the very, very edge of this particular poll, managing to survive for so long and actually finding success against SSG, who we opted to believe would be one of the most difficult obstacles in front of them. My only regret is that we really never got the chance to tune in with Furia to see how they made their way down from this northern side with such confidence.
I mean, evidently it was by encountering very few people, their kills not really showing up here in a surprising way, especially when contrasted to the playstyle of Fury. Only 3 gets them a 10-point game in total, but nobody's kills particularly hard. BR Demons, of course, we have to shout out Reeds here. Insane performance to be able to pick up 10 kills. And NRG, even with their first place, didn't quite overcome complexity.
Yeah, for energy, that's kind of what I was talking about. Being on the low ground in the heart of the fissure can be so difficult just because so many squads have those angles to punish you there. So there was a reason why we don't see them join with as much KP as they did. But at the heart of that situation, they could have gone down way, way earlier. The fact that they win it all is just incredible.
Now I'm going to bring it back because, again, the doubt in my heart wants me to not talk about it, but I have to say it. Complexity, 2 top 3 finishes, and then tied for first place with NRG. What is going to happen in the overall scoreboards as we pop over to Stormpoint? We'll find out when we get back from a short break.
Find some way to get angles on this squad.
Oh! His Watts with big damage. Zero looking low. It might be, yes,
Energy!
the go button here. Energy have climbed up. They've got angles on both of these teams, but they need to finish one straight on top of the car here. Fury eliminated. Turn that right around and find victory from below.
NRG, baby, pulling off that play from the low ground. The Valkyrie. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Oversight. We are in Split 2 Week 3 finals, and we've just finished off all of our games on World's Edge. Where we're jumping into, Zephyr, is Stormpoint. Totally different map, totally different play styles, but hopefully more of the same that we've been seeing on World's Edge in terms of the action. These are the leaderboards overall for our first 3 games.
It's about damn time. Complexity here. They have finished well and above the rest in their placement for quite a long period on World's Edge, and now finally are in first place here. That is a huge question, especially narratively going into Stormpoint, a much harder map to call, a much harder map to get those premier god spots into play. For Complexity, it's going to be a problem, especially if they cannot master the edge advantage that they're going to potentially need to have. It's the prime opportunity for Darkseer with 37, with Guard with 31 to slip up from behind and steal this one away.
We're still ever so close, with even more teams starting to funnel into contention. We're taking away that top slot. Space Station Gaming at 7th place right now, 20 points, still have an easy alley-oop, and even Team Liquid with a great game can push themselves up into 2nd or 3rd quite easily. What I'm looking at, though, checking in once again with our Challenger Circuit squad, Stormtroopers, who starting off the day after 2 games were in top 5. They have dropped just that little bit, but maintained top 10, which I'm going to call a win for them.
Looking at the bottom half of the board, someone I do want to bring up having some early struggles. TSM, one of the most dominant squads in America. Obviously, experimenting a little bit, that Catalyst becoming more of an option here, especially in the hands of how we've seen it in its effective natures. This time around, obviously, the roster having a little bit more difficulties.
I think Zephyr.
All
The
right.
Catalyst is going to look a lot better on Stormpoint. I'm expecting them to stick with it. But for any team running Catalyst, I think she just gets so much more value there than on World's Edge. And teams are still experimenting with this, of course, and exactly how things work out. But just letting history be our teacher, letting even CLG, who have whipped out the Catalyst in the past, really enjoying to experiment. And though that squad isn't with us tonight, it was
Aurora.
Storm Point where we originally saw them find a lot of success.
You know, I can't go anywhere. I gotta give a little love to EMEA. Anyways, obviously a fantastic opportunity for all these teams though to get the practice in where they need it up against the best of the best, because in ALGS that's where the points really start to count. Now we start to approach Storm Point here, and we talk about this map every time around, the chaos that it brings here, its unsolved nature, and the lack of consistency due to just the sheer size that can provide such a struggle to some of these teams.
And the chaos that you talk about is going to be starting pretty early, because as we talked about at the start of the stream, Dark Zero are going to be contesting, likely, 100
Yes.
Thieves over in Command Center. This has been happening during the course of this week, and that fight is always really fun to watch, although I will say Dark Zero have been coming out the winners of it more often than not, so we may very well see 100 Thieves try and take a few different approaches to this early engagement.
I mean, the map's big enough. There's no reason that they have to be going for the contest directly. Okay, they can pull. Why you giggle at me? What do I say?
I mean, you say that. Did you see all the drama with Raven and TSM trying to take that car away from SZN?
Oh my god!
Yeah, we say the map is big enough, and meanwhile, SCN see that tweet from Raven and go, "We're gonna int your game." And honestly, that's some more action to look forward to, because there's a really, really, really good chance that SCN actually do hard focus TSM.
These are one of those moments where I just take off my glasses and I let the game tell its story, because no way in hell am I doing that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but as always, it's very difficult to predict what these teams are going to do, because what you say on social media and what you do when prizing is on the line, when we've got a lot of money coming in for first place, $2,300 for that position, and all the way down to $300 for fourth. What you say when you can get a little bit of extra dough may not always be the same as what you say on Twitter.
Okay. I like that this is the casting, the informational, the direction we go, because yes, Twitter holds that much of an impact sometimes. And that's not sarcasm. I know I sound sarcastic. Yeah. Literally, I swear. Either way, obviously we take a look, maybe if we could pull back up the leaderboard, if we want to take a look at the current overall standings here to maybe get some love towards some of those teams we didn't get the opportunity to talk about much further here. Obviously, we come off of a big win from NRG. Yeah, I kind of want your impressions. Where are we going with that one? How do we feel?
I mean, obviously I feel good
Number
more
one?
because Reddit won't be target hating me anymore. But overall, the performance from NRG has been relatively lackluster. I don't think that's a stretch to say. Only 14 points from placement, 7 from kills. It is still higher than the rest of the lobby, but given their performances on both last Friday, and then this Monday, it's fair to say that I also expected something a little bit different from them. It's been a really difficult couple games for them, though, because a lot of times NRG are very momentum based, and especially on World's Edge, where a lot of that was getting shut down by teams bunkering up early. I don't think NRG's really gotten on the roll that they look for.
It's tough to say too, because it seems like they are a team who makes those decisive decisions, and here on Storm Points where those hold less weight. Right, and at the end of the day here for NRG, you need to have that flexibility, which has been a larger question for them. And tonight, I mean, it's a third-party tournament. I mean, it can come through.
It's true. I like the cheeky reference at the meme of NRG. Space Station Gaming below them, though, and right just above Stormtroopers are another team that I'm interested in, because you and I have talked about this, and it varies throughout the season, but the actual strength of Space Station Gaming is something that wavers throughout the season, even if I don't feel like their play style ever really takes any sharp turns. They're just consistent. They play how they like. And that hasn't changed. Unfortunately, in today's lobby, it hasn't net them a top spot just yet.
Well, as our dropship makes its way through for the very first time, we introduce Storm Point to you all.
You know, I'm surprised that I may come out a little bit confusing here. I'm surprised we don't have different dropships. Why is it always the same dropship? You know, like we could have different providers. We have totally different architecture. Why the same dropship?
I don't know how to answer this. I genuinely...
You know you've asked a good question when your co-caster goes, what? What? Fortunately for you, Zephyr, you don't have to think about
Dark
my
Zero,
question.
fight 100 thieves.
Yeah.
Get me out of this.
Already, good damage down, but nothing consequential just yet. It does, however, stop the rest of the looting as Dark Zero push forward just that little bit further. The double scan is going to be super important for them in this skirmish, but 100 Thieves on the other end have opted into a skirmish-heavy comp themselves. They've got the Bang, Gibby, and Bloodhound, something you absolutely run if you're going to fight. And oh, this is a contest that we didn't expect, but Sentinels are actually fighting up against Karasuno over in Stormcatcher. Crust his flesh. Bubble's about to expire. Karasuno may just send this, and coming around the corner, it's the fisticuffs that have to come out. Push James Fearless right back out the door.
Slam him right back into it. Surprisingly, Karasuno looking lower than expected, even from above. Sentinels taking advantage. That makes one mark. That makes two. Ooh. Last remaining member left standing here for Karasuno, and the job is done, Dia.
That was a very quick way for this fight to devolve, but the shotguns come out and the gloves come off. Sentinels winning this fight have themselves an extra 3 points, but more than that, probably have a lot of questions about how this day was supposed to start, because this was not one of the contests that we were looking for. We do turn back into the one that we were expecting from previously, and Dark Zero do seem to be coming out on top of it for now.
I was about to say, all of them looking particularly low here. Not much shielding left available. 6 in a prime position to potentially find good responses back. Immediately, though, quickly dropped. Zero with a double knock of that wingman. Scurry picked off just as quickly. All 3 of those kills come into my boy Zero.
Thank you, Wingman. It may be time for Dark Zero to rename themselves to Wingman Season, because for the people that missed that game, Zero absolutely crushed there, and Solo turned that fight. There's no question there. Dark Zero were looking all right in it, but like you said, it was very on the line, and this actually is going to be on the line as well. I don't know if either of these teams expected a fight, but Madness instantly drops out of the sky going, I want absolutely no part of that.
Well, from one fight potentially straight into another, we get the first opportunity to take a look at this zone, and this is one of my least favorite areas for teams to find their way down. We get that southern pole shipfall ending. You get the houses where currently BR is trying to set themselves up, where MPS are trying to find a happy home, and HCE on that south side with the little exposures that give you these slight angles and guard on their own rotation. That's it. That's it. Those are the viable options.
Yeah, it does feel, especially when we get into the later game, that you do coin flip for these more often than not, but we'll see how all these squads play things out to maybe turn the tides of battle ever so slightly. As the guard do stereotypically rotate in, they make this move successfully, having picked up that beacon scan earlier, and now get to sit in one of those few privileged positions that you mentioned. Complexity's rotation around the side, though, is an interesting one, as I would not associate this position with long life, but if Complexity have shown us anything today, it is that they can absolutely survive, if not thrive, even in the most awkward of positions.
I will give one benefit towards this kind of rotation. Notice how Complexity don't set up on the eastern side of this zone. Typically, when it comes to the rotations here, you see a much more heavy precedent set towards directly on top of ship fall here. Either way, we tune back in towards Sentinels. It doesn't look like they've slowed any further down. Furia, his Watson, the first to find drops. Panders is on that upper side, still finding his own source of success, but with the drop like that there on Synox, it is the perfect opportunity for them to get revived, to take their way to this grab lift, and to potentially finish the job.
Oh, yeah. Bull sending it forward right now into the zone, but with a knock already. It's Zera that's desperately trying to escape, but in this Trident, I don't think we'll be able to. The med not... Oh, God! Almost not going off in time, and Zera's still having to pop a few more. There could still be a chase down from Sentinels as well. Medkit going to be fully popped, and rest of... No, there we go. Sentinels still. We've got that UI thing going on again.
It's just one of those moments. It's like, I'm not going to sing. I was going to sing. Anyways, Sentinels on their way out there. For a moment, we do tune into the kill feed, and we get to see that TL has taken some brunt of damage. It's fun. Initially knocked out here. Some damage coming through from that south side. Obviously, the recovery on that banner, unlikely to happen given the fact that they're forced to rotate out and away from that initial fight that took place.
Yeah, I don't even see the banner on their mini-map. That's how far they are from recovering fun, which is a big problem for them. In the kill feed, Furia do get picked up, I imagine, by the zone, given that we don't see any kill credit given there, but another squad down nonetheless. 17 teams, and with Team Liquid missing one, Storm Point has already become a whole lot more skirmish heavy than I would have otherwise imagined. I mean, I do expect this to be more chaotic, certainly, than our games on World's Edge, but the fact that we've got so many squads moving around in pieces is surprising.
We'll see how it fares for them. Obviously, it's still only round one. There's a lot of time to find your source of recovery here. We are beginning to see what I talked about begin to form. A lot of shipfall being contested. Obviously, MPS, they pull back. They lose out on some of those early rotations, and they have opted to play for the high ground top of ship, just across from SSG. That usually contains just about 2 squads before the rest of them begin to force their way directly inside there. Luminosity opting for a much more wider swing and setup in this particular zone.
Where's this next zone pull, though? That's a big question. Is we'll get that revealed to us. It does,
right
in
there.
fact, continue to pull right back down to what you were talking about. I was asking because I noticed that teams like Luminosity and Optic were setting up in slightly different positions, hoping that we would get one of those more unorthodox movements of the zone. And while those aren't rewarded this time, I do have to respect teams like, again, Optic, who settled for that beacon, Esports Arena, and Luminosity Gaming, who do go for those edge plays.
It's still okay to be in a spot like that. Obviously, for someone like Luminosity, they might know where this zone is pulling, obviously. It's just the fact that it's too late. And going for that slow rotation in with the edge play from that position isn't bad. Is it difficult? Is zone going to choke you out? Yes. But is it better than going for a very late redeploy into the heart of where you need to be with a 50-50 chance of actually making it there? Sometimes what looks like a dumb or poor decision, or maybe not the best option, is simply done because they don't have a choice. And it's something that a lot of people don't always realize about this game.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. A lot of our teams are making the best of the bad situations that they're dealt, as things continue to be pretty difficult to predict, or like you talk about, even when you do drop down, sometimes you just really can't make the dream scenario come true for you. This is true. This is certainly the case for a lot of our zone teams. But for SCN, I imagine that they're pretty happy. Their rotation has put them in a position that's relatively safe for now and will leave them on edge as the zone continues to pull in. Sentinel's movement through Antenna will give them an option to play this edge style as well because, well, looking back at last game, zone didn't exactly go perfectly for them, and this position, which is arguably much harder to play than Lava Fisher, is going to be even harder.
It's been a big start for Sentinels here, kind of leading the board in terms of KP at the beginning of this game. Obviously going to be running in to the heart of the beast, though. Dark Zero with their own success in the early game. Now gatekeeping for Sentinels. There still is a lot of time to find alternative rotations, which looks to be what they're beginning to do.
G2 coming up behind NRG. These teams are trading shots early on. I don't think NRG know. They're going to find out right now, though, as a wide swing comes in from design. There's no real escape for Guild as that rock is a little too wide. And now G2 should have the full clearance to full send onto NRG. Great damage does get put down right back, but unfortunately, that's all that it is just a little bit of taking in the numbers. I believe that may have been a stick. Good crack comes through from Nathan. He's going to get aggressive on this. More arcs are coming through, and this could change everything. Frag grenade going to come down as well. And this mobile shield is doing work on the other side, but finally released from the barrage of nades. G2 push right back out. Finish what they started with NRG, and again, get that great reset with the gold knockdown shield. Esports Arena aren't going to feel confident enough to push up on this, don't have the data on the health bars of G2, didn't take for any damage, and will back off, exposing themselves to a little bit of risk, because if history is any teacher, G2 will eventually push Esports Arena.
I will say, that was so close from Energy there. That knockdown shield really providing everything in that moment. Energy just could not really force themselves into the crack there. Meanwhile, Esports Arena pulling back down, building West Side Island for now. This is going to give them that opportunity to maybe turn tail, find the extra shots, these kind of slow rotations in. Luminosity with a redeploy into the heart of zone. We'll see if they're punished much in the same way that I brought up earlier. You already see big damage down on the majority of this roster. Juarez down to, yes, a final tick, and there goes Needle. Yeah.
I was thinking of exactly the point that you made 5 minutes ago as this happened. Luminosity feeling like they were forced to make that decision because their guess on the zone didn't go their way. Unfortunately, it just didn't age well, and Sentinels sort of inheriting that position are going to have to make a similar decision. They're not the only ones, though. Space Station and MPS, also right next door in Shipfall, well, they do have an easier move in, are going to be mirrored in the way that HEC sort of runs the lives of everyone coming from the East.
Two big narratives to watch out here is obviously the fact, what can Complexity do? They're on the defense of the most peculiar position to hold off on. Sometimes we see teams sit up on that very edge there, especially with the castle wall, to provide a source of survivability. Are they going to be able to compete with literally everyone coming through from the western end? And then obviously the rest of these teams, south side, HEC is going to lose out on zone here and straight out into the open. They're going to have to potentially compete or push early.
I'm getting a bit of deja vu, though, with this move up. Space Station Gaming have risked a lot to be able to move over into these buildings, and somehow they're not being punished.
Wow.
The push from SZN drawing a lot of attention instead as they go up right against the BR Demons, where again we've got some true demons dealing the damage right now. BR have managed to stabilize inside this building, but that door is not locked, and Aiden is down, unable to provide that extra bit of safety. Vane's gonna pop out here. Reed's still healing up. Knockdown shield makes things more difficult for Vane, as well as eating shots from Complexity on the way back in. Vane is lucky to be alive, and Reed's is gonna try and get Aiden back in. Still no heals yet. I wonder if they've even got the meds.
We'll see if they're going to be able to survive. Meanwhile, we got TSM all the way in the north side. Let's tune in and see where they're at.
I got insta-killed. 41 red. I'm backing up. Oh. Let's get it, boys. All right, we need to mirror this team now on height. That's our only play. Yeah, I know about that. Yeah, well, we walk into a trio that knows where to do, or we try to mirror this team on height. I'd rather just die to zone, to be honest. We just hope these guys get pinched and die. They actually might. Can you zero ult? Yeah, I can. 112, 112. I'm locking up. Walking up too. I'm walking up too. I'm wrapping. Dropping on me. I'm just dead, man. We are trolling, man. Like, why are we going so early?
solid comms from TSM on the damage that they were doing, and I liked their approach, but that team fighting from G2 just a little bit extra at short range. They're so deadly, and we saw it in the comms from TSM. As soon as Verhulst gets dropped, they know they've lost the fight. They try to push up again. G2 recognize and isolate. It seems like simple execution, but in the moment, the fact that G2 were able to so quickly turn these fights into no-win situations for other squads, really, really impressive there. SZN somehow managing to win in their own situation, well, it doesn't look great for them. The very fact that SZN are alive and in zone is a lot more than TSM were just able to accomplish.
Speaking of no-win situations, Dark Zero from the northern side, a deep rotation right on top of MPS. Sentinels source out that this might be their opening, the go button that they need here. Senux already on the top end with the PK. We'll find that initial crack, but the dome down. Dudes that they might not have the best moves forward.
Good damage. Ox needs one more good shot, but shotguns are out on the other side. And Dark Zero turn things around too quickly to count. Now they've got their rotation free and clear into the zone, at least of the squads next to them. Well, Optic seemingly are able to pull off a similar play on the opposite side. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, eliminating G2.
That would be surprising there for a team that had been so dominant towards the western side. I mean, it just goes to show how punishing this zone can be. I talked about from the get-go, you've got to be deep, direct, heart here from the beginning, or else you will inevitably face some kind of defeat. BR Demons, one of those squads, the one who currently hosts the, well, not quite the God spot. It will be lost out in our final zone, but it's much, much better than anything on the outskirts, especially as we're going to see the mass migration from Shipfall here in a second.
I was going to say, riddle me this, Zephyr. Do you prefer HEC or the Guard for not this zone, but the next? We'll get the chance to talk about that, as, like you say, this Exodus is going to be the most important thing. BR Demons able to at least hold these reconstructed and locked doors to keep themselves safe. Should leave SZN to do the majority of the work on the outside, especially when it comes to taking out Dark Zero.
Dark Zero here, they took away that spot from MPS defend against Sentinels, but this movement ahead is so difficult. Optic with their own redeploy into the heart of this building. We've seen this time and time again, and so many squads have capitalized in moments like this. For Noct and Duplex, they are struggle bussing out here.
It's shocking that they're even alive. A bat is going to go off for Duplex somehow in the midst of all this smoke, but eventually it's going to run out. On the other side, SZN's luck has run out as they get pushed by BR Demons and subsequently finished off. The BR Demons do keep this going as well, jumping onto Optic, taking them out and collecting so many kills in a short amount of time. Their re-entry into the building, though, a little bit more difficult as Dark Veil does come out to split this building, get them a chance at a reset, and it's just in time. Reeds is down, and they've still got to put up a heck of a defense along the outside. Interrupt on the res makes this impossible, though, and Vayne going down gives Dark Zero their chance of a lifetime to bust down this door and get messy on the inside.
I have to give credit where it's due, though. They tried to survive the best that they could on the interior. I love the utilization on the reinforcement of this wall ahead to try to keep that revive going. They're still trying to do it here. Dark Zero knows they can't invest that much more. Once again, another break found there. More damage down.
Smoke cover keeps Dark Zero from being a juicy target. HEC doesn't even have angles on them. Of all the squads in this fight, it is Dark Zero that have the most liberty to continually harass. BR Demons do leave us, with Guard actually picking up a kill in that same fight. And Dark Zero around this corner to, again, yet another engagement, this time up against Space Station, who have tried to make their way into the building. The early knock, though, lets Dark Zero know everything they need to, that they don't have full competition on the other side. And Space Station Gaming have just one member left as Guards start to rotate out of their building, and HEC have maintained their arguably best spot.
Yeah, I was about to say, this zone with its deep pull towards Southside is in the presence of more than likely HEC being in a position to win it all for the Guard, and Dark Zero likely going to be having to rotate and compete at the same time, potentially the situation that leads to the victory here for HEC.
Dark Zero, got to be a little bit careful, as SSG right next to them could take down even a single member. You find Flesh on one, things get more difficult, but Frex has relocated over to the side of HEC. A dangerous push to make, but not one that's been punished just yet. Out come Dark Zero with a little bit more damage here, and while he tries to peek out, I respect the attempt, but it isn't going to work today. Dark Zero, by some miracle, have this extra little bit of cover, and with all three teams having a decent angle to just protect themselves from everyone else, I think we're going to be waiting a whole nother minute before we see more action.
I doubt we'll be seeing any damage take place here, but you can't deny the fact that in terms of cover, in terms of a source of defense, between both Dark Zero and Guard, we are talking about a fraction of space, especially in comparison to HEC. I don't say it often, but it is their game to lose, Dia.
It's amazing to me that HEC even have this many meds as well. I know they got to farm up the Prowlers, but good God, nice peek from Hill is continuing to take those same meds away from the Guard, who have no way of countering this charge rifle angle. This little bit of cover that they've got is going to have to be enough, but with 6 seconds left, Hill smells blood in the water, finds Flesh, and gets to pop right back into cover. Playing things slow is going to be the biggest thing that HEC have to do. If they can stay in control of both teams, they can win this game. Dark Zero find that first knock. It's onto Rambo, and though it's only 10 damage out of the Bangalore, it's enough to maybe begin the end of the Guard.
Now, I will say, HEC has surrendered a big portion of their space ahead here, allowing Dark Zero to walk right up against the wall. They're able to turn right back round here on the Guard and find what will be potentially their final knocks ahead, but this kind of height is not what you want in the hands of Dark Zero.
HEC cowering behind this rock, know that they've messed up. They cannot give up space like this, but Dark Zero feel confident enough to go for the push. 3 teams left, and Dark Zero want to try and make the most of this situation where they've crippled the Guard. Instead, though, they're getting pushed on by that very same squad. Guard move forward, taking resources out of the hands of Dark Zero, giving them over to HEC and making them feel confident. Crook and Hill, both shieldless, still get to move on in this 2v2. HEC go down, and Dark Zero claim their second win of the day.
Dark Zero, and in a shocking turn of events here, come out with the win on our first game of Storm Point there. I was sure, Dia, especially after dropping down onto the low ground, after being assaulted directly by the Guard, that the game was over.
I have to agree with you. I was looking at that going, yes, the way that we've seen these end games so commonly play out is one squad briefs another squad, and then both teams' games are over because of the third party. But HEC and their lack of aggression, I'll say, in that area. And it wasn't just that moment either.
I think, well, hold on. We might have an answer for why. We'll get to see it on the replay here in a second.
Okay.
But HEC might not have had any ammo.
Imagine, actually. That's like the one number that I almost never look at because so infrequently is it relevant. But should that be the case? Yeah, nothing left on the charge rifle there. We at least get confirmation of that. As Dark Zero got pushed, their health bars were so ridiculously low. It's Sharky and Zero on the low ground. Instant knock there, re-knock, and then it's Sharky up against 2. I'm not seeing any shots. I'm not seeing any shots. Wow.
What an utmost perfect situation to kind of end up in.
What a heartbreaker.
Hey, props to Sharky. Obviously, you take advantage of it where it's due there, and the team still survived quite adequately, especially being forced into a situation directly up against the Guard. I mean, that could have gone terrible.
It really could.
I mean, that could have gone horrendous, much worse than what we saw there. So, still, at the end of the day, also, we shouldn't really discredit anything from what we saw. Dark Zero fought very hard to get to that position, straight from the north, deep into Shipfall, fought so many squads, and while that ending was maybe a little bit anticlimactic, that is still a huge game. 16 kills, the win, 28 total.
with all three teams that made it into that end game, Dark Zero were in fact the only squad that even had to fight for their position. Remember, we saw Guard rotate in early. We saw HEC take their spot even before that. It was Dark Zero that had to move through it just to take their end game building alone. 3 different teams, and that's before they even made it to the zone. A 16 kill game means that they get 28 on the day, and HEC right behind them collect only 5 with 14. The most surprising to me, though, is BR Demons, who were in that engagement the whole time. Both they and Optic Gaming, with their participation in the kills, still come out ahead of the Guard, who placed 3rd.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for the Guard, super low down there themselves, given the fact that, I mean, you put yourself in a very dominant position there, and it's something that gives them their placement in the end, but never quite were able to peek out, find a source of damage or any of the KP that would net them much further up on the board.
Well, the nice thing is that for a lot of the teams that had a really unlucky time with that zone, you said it yourself, Zephyr, very hard to play. They've still got 2 more games of Stormpoint to roll something a little different and show us what they've got there. With those 2 games ahead of us and with the overall leaderboards coming up right after this, we're going to take a very short break before we jump into Game 5.
Left and Dark Zero want to try and make the most of this situation where they've crippled the Guard. Instead, though, they're getting pushed on by that very same squad. Guard move forward, taking resources out of the hands of Dark Zero, giving them over to HEC and making them feel confident. Crook and Hill, both shieldless, still get to move on in this 2v2. HEC go down, and Dark Zero claim their 2nd win of the day.
Dark Zero.
Standing on this victory.
Presented by Hyperlux, as we are jumping into almost our 5th game. I want to take a look at those leaderboards first to see what the overall standings have to tell us, Zephyr.
Well, they tell us one story, and it's the fact that Dark Zero have found themselves a place among the rest of this lobby. Finally, a 20-point gap to push them in. More remarkably than that, the fact that they dwarf the rest of these teams and the amount of kills that they have there.
That was what was standing out to me too. I'm glad we both saw the same thing, because that is a really interesting thing to consider when we talk about the play styles that these different squads have shown us. A lot of people, as we mentioned at the start of the day, coming back to this zone style of play, evidently opening up Dark Zero to just slaughter everyone as they make their moves into the zone. Complexity coming up right behind them, like you said, a 20-point gap, but then from 2nd place, it's only 5 left until we drop down to the Guard in 3rd, and only 4 after that until we make it to BR Demons.
We'll see how it goes here now, though. For the rest of these teams, they're playing catch-up, Dia, and that's a very different situation to put yourself in, especially for squads like Complexity, who have stood above the rest, but fail to have the, I would say, skill set, or particularly the, identity of a team to put up big major points like that. Whereas I look towards BR Demons and G2 where one good game can do that.
Keeping track of our Challenger Circuit squad, they've slipped down just that little bit further, Zephyr, from 8th to 10th. And the important thing to note there is that with these two games, it isn't just a fight for the top 4 where you get a slice of prizing. It's also a fight to be in the top 10, as that'll get you invited back to next week's games. Holding on to that position is going to be really important for them, with Optic Gaming crawling up right behind the Stormtroopers, eager to take it away. Those are two teams that we'll have to keep our eyes on as to how the rest of these two games on Storm Point play out. We're dropping in right now for the 5th game of the day here in Oversight Split 2, week number 3. And we've got yet another, likely, early contest to bring you guys.
One that hopefully doesn't allow Dia to talk about anything regarding ships, designs, any of that.
It's interesting questions. I'm keeping my eye on Command Center right now. So we've got certainly the same two squads headed in there again. Dark Zero going to take the exact same entry in through the front of Command Center, and 100 Thieves changing up their approach a little bit as well to deny some more loot and get themselves first dibs. Meanwhile, the rest of the map is sorting out pretty darn standard. Looking over at Stormcatcher, where we saw our other 50-50 take place between, I believe it was Karasuno and Sentinels. I'm not seeing Sentinels anywhere.
Well, obviously, I mean, surprisingly so, actually. Sentinels, I mean, they found themselves in a different source of aggression there.
Dark Zero pushing in right now. We've got to listen in to see how they work on this 50-50 for the second time in a row. Let's take a listen.
I'm dead. I'm dead to longbow, bro. 10. Fuck, man. I died for free by a longbow on the side. Fuck's sake.
Rough time to be Dark Zero right now, is that longbow really did put in work. They identified this correctly. They're not the only squad with an early fight, though. We've got G2 in that early engagement up against BR Demons, and Designful raining down the Eva bullets from above. May not be enough. 2 members left, and that punched a serious...
Whoa!
Oh my god, he did it! What?
What? A drop down, a quick smack in the face, and then a double tap with the wingman, and it almost felt like he had just kind of said, caution to the wind, give up, I'll take my last few shots where they may count, and count they did, Dia.
That is difficult to recover from emotionally, because think about how much it shocked us, and now imagine how much it shocked BR Demons to be turned around on like that. They're out of this game, so they'll have plenty of time to recover, but G2 taking their time to probably revel in the moment. HEC, meanwhile, have made yet another early move into their prediction for the zone, this time over by Antenna. And while we, I don't believe, managed to get zone scanned for number 2 here, that is what these teams are operating on, especially HEC, who played in exactly the same way last game.
I do want to bring one quick point up between G2 and BR before we walk away completely. That is a very, very intense pull on our leaderboard now. Because I talked about between squads that can cash up in terms of big gaps, I look towards BR Demons and G2. And the fact that one of them are already at, one who falls to the other, more optimal than any kind of story you could potentially create, is such a big deal going into our Game 5. And the fact that already right off the bat, our leader, Dark Zero, falls as well. This is definitely one game that's going to shake it up completely here. So everyone, keep your eyes peeled. Don't walk away. No little juice breaks. Whatever.
It's a very intentional focus that now gets brought into these end games, because that fight between BR Demons and G2, it doesn't happen on accident. The early one between 100 Thieves and Dark Zero, it's not happening on accident either, but it's not necessarily influenced by the standings. G2's move absolutely is, and that's something that I'm surprised to see them using to their advantage, when so often these teams will choose to play a little bit safer, even when they know that they can grab advantages by hot dropping. It's something that it's very rare to see.
I am curious to take a look back at that zone here in just a moment to get a more concise understanding of where this final one's going to be polling here. For now, Luminosity, obviously, slow rotation out from their start. No surprise here. And IMCR and Marie to garner them their original loot as well. 100 Thieves with a quick redeploy down towards the south. Everyone just slowly forcing their way in.
I think we'll see 100 Thieves try and take this edge approach again. They've got Jurassic this time to make some use of, and with the already scan that they've got on zone, they know it as well as we do. It should come as no surprise to anyone that as we tune back into the center of zone, that Guard are sat right there in the straight up middle. Sentinels right next to them, perhaps a little bit different than what we've seen previously, but reverting to their sort of World's Edge style here is going to be a welcome change for them. The Guard, in the meanwhile, do have to worry about exactly what they did last game, and that is this war of attrition that's going to happen throughout these next couple minutes. For the next, basically, 18 to 20 minutes, the Guard are planning to be sat right here, and their meds have got to lash them until then.
Yeah, it's really tough, though, too, because you know guaranteed that we won't see a finish directly in the heart of antenna. That doesn't happen, right? So that means at some point the rotation from Guard is inevitable, whether it's, you know, in zone 2-3 or at the very, very end here towards the edge where we sometimes see a slight pull out there towards the west, or east, my apologies. So I'm curious how they're going to be setting themselves up if they spare no resources, find themselves at a point of weakness. How does that benefit them? Why not make moves earlier?
I see your point, and I'm curious as to how they'll play around it. I believe with the use of the crypto, it's possible that the Guard do mitigate some of that, but first we'll have to see how NRG and TSM around the edge work on their differences, shall we say. NRG have already spotted out that there is a squad in front of them. They don't know who it is yet. As soon as this first knock comes through, they're certainly going to go for it. Good scan already, and destruction of the Seer ult in their favor gives them an informational advantage, though Sweet is low, and NRG have to full commit onto one member out here on the outside. Verhulst is caught unawares and taken down, making the swap over to the Catalyst this game in an interesting turn of events. TSM get taken down, and we once again get to play the game of will they swap their legends back to how they were before, or do they run this once more?
Well, for NRG, it's a huge win there, and they had the precedent set from their early rotation forward, and wow, even with the speed at which they do so, they don't even have to worry about 100 Thieves coming through to third party. I like this, though. This is finally what I've been asking for. We get to see the zone. It's that zone that finishes right above where you see complexity in the heart, the little crux there of that cliffside. So many teams have made wrong decisions. They're going to have to find their way towards Gale Station sometime soon, much like the one I brought up earlier, the Guard. For now, though, ESA on the chase.
Nice beam as well. The charge rifle does lose that extra nanobot scan. Unfortunately, won't end up finding the knock. The phony missing a bit of information here. Doesn't collect the kill. Instead, ultimately, Optic should be able to escape through this little pathway into Jurassic, even hole up in there for a defense. But Esports Arena aren't giving up on the chase, which is a risky strat to employ right now, as we already know that with NRG right above, a third party would easily take out Esports Arena if they push up to where Optic Gaming are currently sat.
Optic have no choice here, right? Being pushed into this situation, but it is not good. Anything that screams the words or Jurassic Park as a whole can be such a hard area to play into. There's a reason you do not see teams set up in that POI direct. For them, they are able to carry their way through the cave, which can be one of the more dangerous areas, but that still doesn't solve the fact that they need to be starting to make their way maybe a little bit more further towards the east, towards the entrance of Antenna, where these teams still competing on the interior,
Sentinels have gotten uncomfortably close to the guard, who were on the ropes, it seemed, when we last checked in with them. Furia pushing up on yet another squad as well. Maybe finding some knocks here. Not a whole lot of places to hide as we move into Launchpad, and Panders popping the ult with supreme confidence is going to drop down, find that, slay out, and pick up the knock onto Dan. Zera eats a bit too much damage, though, and does back off. Meanwhile, they're not the only ones. G2 are down, the guard have fallen, and Furia are still fighting, still on the front foot as yet another knock comes in, this time from Zera, and it should be down to just one. Stormtrooper sitting at 10th right now, could be eliminated, which should cause them massive problems. Furia are playing this slow, though, even backing off, as evidently the third party is enough to push them away.
I mean, it's gotta be. Put yourself in a situation like that, and you'll see how many squads come in to punish. It's Karasuno who hear the shots and immediately arrive here. Now, they've lost out on the early opportunity to have a free third party on Furia, but now that an exhibit is down, they're no longer in the best position for it. Furia are right back on the heels here.
Pain. Stormtroopers get a stick, and it's not going to be enough. Prophet gets knocked once more, and down to a 3 versus 1. It is elementary, my dear Furia fans, as they pick up yet another full squad wipe. MPS go down simultaneously, and it's Optic Gaming to pick up those kills. This is the difference that we were looking for. Optic have just not only outsurvived, but outslain Stormtroopers, and have moved themselves into the top 10.
I want to paint you a picture, because Sentinels just go down as well. All the squads who showed up early to Antenna pay the price. They exchanged too much damage between each other. This is not a position that Zone can ever end. And as a result, look at who comes through and cleans up. It's Optic and now ESA in their own contest. The latest rotating teams who get to take advantage. I'm telling you, Dia, I'm telling the teams, it is a death trap.
I mean, coming from all the way over by Jurassic Park, though, this particular 3v3 is kind of a love story. Esports Arena have been chasing Optic Gaming all around the map and finally get the chance to take them down. G7 at close range takes out Duplex, and in a 1 versus 3, there just ain't that much you can do. Optic Gaming get mopped up by Esports Arena, though they collected kills on their way out. This will shift the standings darn significantly, and we've still got a whole lot of changes to be made since Optic didn't get to pick up that much more momentum after their initial frag out.
It's tough to say outside of the top 10 before this game. We'll see if they maybe find their way forward, but it's very, very unlikely, Dia. Meanwhile, for Furia, this is a deep rotation ahead. They know they got to carry themselves further south, especially with where this zone is pulling, but there's so much contest here in Launchpad that it's actually slowing down so many of the rotations from these teams. That could potentially be them. We just saw them slip underneath here, and now towards the edge, it's scurry from above with the longbow. Name a better combo that finds the drop onto Panders. They're going to go for it.
It's already claimed one squad today and looks to claim another. Nice dip and dive from Vaxlon keeps him safe for now, but up against Furia, you cannot count them out even with just 2. Panders may be down, but you still got 2 mechanical gods on this squad.
Nice.
Unfortunately, Zera up in the air has no mechanics to take him down out of it safely, and 100 Thieves look to be cleaning up yet another team. Just 1 member left here, and they're playing it slow with the scans, making sure that they get to do this safely. It's going to be the re-knock onto Panders. The finish off here onto Furia, but there is yet another squad coming in shortly, and 100 Thieves have to do the most with what they've got. Turning around, shots from the 30-30 out of hipfire aren't saving the day just yet, and ultimately no knock comes through again as Karasuno get to push up and pick up these kills, and RG now coming in for the 4th party, and finally pushing Karasuno back with Furia still alive.
Furia still left alive. It's his Watson in the end that's able to sneak out of that one there. And Dia, you bring up the speed of that fight, and that's inevitably what actually pays the price in the end, right? I mean, had 100 Thieves capitalized on Furia in a much more dominant fashion, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. Maybe, yes, here's who works their way forward, but it's no way as close to effective there. So the fact that Thieves don't quite get that in a kind of chip chop slap done fashion, it causes them to lose.
His Watson's still alive for right now, keeping the legacy of Furia going. is going to be able to bat up in the meanwhile, but Space Station Gaming are looking at this, and Karasuno down does at least give that placement advantage over the Furia lads. Esports Arena right in front of them also have 2 squads looking down. RE45 in the hands of Naughty. Evidently not enough safety as we are expending every possible cooldown to get Esports Arena out of the danger they found themselves in. It's Phony from above that has to lay down cover fire. Furia do go out. Team Liquid picking up those kills, but now fully revealed on this scan. It is a great move from Phony, and the aggression from Naughty and Capra is going to come in clutch here as they slide down this hill into the zone, albeit this is round 3 and it hurts a lot.
And surprisingly, it's not enough damage as it is Space Station Gaming ahead in that. No, my apologies. Space Station have been here from the get-go. It was NRG caught out right in front of them there that they get to actually pick up the majority of that KP instead of Esports Arena, who provides the initial source of those damage. And I'll tell you what, that would piss me off, Dia. It pissed me off to send it.
It looks like that's exactly the same as the Esports Arena lads. Naughty does lose all their shields, but Esports Arena, much like we saw previously, that boat goes crazy, man. You got to play careful.
I know it's been a while, hasn't been a play, but you can't disrespect it like that. Surprisingly so, ESA have forced their way in, starting to take space inside this building. I'll be honest with you, this does not end well for either of these squads. They're still playing far out of the zone. It's a big rotation from Capra, some big damage down, but still no major knocks here.
They hold each other hostage. Esports Arena on the outside can't walk away, can't Valka ult out because, well, they've got none. And on the inside, SSG can't walk out of the building to Valka ult, so it's got to come down to the fight earlier rather than later. It's a 50-50 for the moment. And Esports Arena do get at least that good initial damage down, though it's no knock to follow. 26 seconds left on zone close. You have to finish this with maybe 5 seconds at least remaining before you move on. Capra, again, great damage. It's time for the full send. First knock comes in onto Zen. Naughty gets the second. Esports Arena clean up SSG. And with 10 seconds left, have to reset and start moving.
And here's the question. We haven't even looked at it all game long. There's so many squads out here in the South. They've been playing zone directly. We knew this was going to be where the pull was right from the get-go. It's a classic ALGS finish here. And for these teams, they've been set up. And now, for what you can see the feed there, knocked with the Kraber. He's paying the price directly onto ESA. They've wasted too much time.
HEC down likely soon as SZN are looking straight at them with nades like that. You don't survive for long. Enemies already fallen, but SCN can't actually push this. It's up to Team Liquid on the height to deal those final blows, and they're focused on Esports Arena on the low ground. Boney's going to be able to make it out, it seems, but Naughty may not be so lucky. TL round the corner, don't get that final shot, and instead are going to have to play on the other side of this rock. Well, hey, thankfully we've got someone on cleanup crew, just able to survive. As right behind this rock, TL do pick up those 2 kills pretty darn cleanly.
I will say, I'll say it once just because, you know, it is Nocturnal, but he put it out there. What a great finish, a cleanup there from Cheesecake. Cheesesteak? Dang it!
Complexity on the other side. They're going to be having a similar emotion to you, Zephyr. Oh no. Getting pushed by SZN. Kenny is the one to finish off this squad. And still plenty of time to reset as well. Unfortunately, the cover is not providing as much. Fortunately, a Gen is still down here, but Hakulo keeps watch as Klein gets picked right back up, and SCN will be able to make it into the top 4, maybe even further, with a little bit of a rotation ahead of them.
Now, this zone does evolve slightly differently from the norm here. Sometimes you see it pulled where, yes, HEC are in play. You have this backside of the cliff that you slow rotate forward, and there's the pull. Instead, it is opted for the south side, a much rarer finish into the heart of a team, though, that should know this area the best. It is none other than Luminosity. They've been here from the beginning, laying claim to the land they call home.
And look at that Trident positioning as well. Academic understanding of how to play this endgame zone out. HEC do have to fully commit onto their fight with SZN. And as they trade knocks, this is going to look mighty appealing to Team Liquid up on the height, who have to make their way through as well. Hill does get that gen down, still has to fight things out in, I believe, a 1 versus 1. But now TL get to come in for this cleanup. It's the final 3 squads, and TL could pick up yet another team. HEC go down there looking for the last members of SCN, but eating damage as they do it. Kenny goes down. Team Liquid still alive behind these fences, and they're going to have to move right into the waiting arms of Luminosity. Bracelet doesn't go well. Yanya is positioned forward. This, as we said last game, is now their game to lose, and Luminosity Gaming are not letting it go. They've got a death grip, and Yanya backing off. Gives just enough space for Niesel to walk up. Brian 1 taking down another. It is clinical to clean up from Luminosity Gaming in their home at Fish Farms.
For Luminosity, one big win here in Game 5. Popping away like dust in the wind there outside of Gale Station. Got to give credit where it is due. We were asking all game long. We saw so much action take place this game, Dia. And the crazy thing is, we knew where the zone was going from the beginning, but so many teams had had such a struggle making their way down from the north into these chokes outside of Launchpad and Nintendo. That's where we were focused all game long.
It's so many teams just having to funnel through that as well. You know as well as I do, Zephyr, it's difficult to escape from. And once you put yourself there, even Valkolts really can't be pulled off with any safety. Ultimately, the teams that did rotate through here, the only successful ones at least, were the ones that came in last. Esports Arena, the final cleanup on Optic Gaming before rotating out to the hill, wisely enough, not holding down that area. This skirmish over by rather by Launchpad was really exciting to watch, though, and, well, we got to see multiple rats escape for just a little while. It was really all about making our way into this endgame.
Every team who came through to play in the end had been here from the get-go. It was surprising to see Complexity, who invests with that information, fall very early on, since they had been in those buildings in Gale Station literally from Zone 1 and further. But at the end of the day, it's a Luminosity win. We talked about it. If you're going to win a game, you better do it in the place you call home.
Yeah, that's true, that's true. When it pulls to your POI, it's time to execute, and I want to see how well they executed on the whole, because Luminosity did play things really safe, really, as we talked about academically, but they did so out of the place that you always play when you think it's coming Fish Farms, that IMC Armory that doesn't have a lot of angles on the major fights that went down. As to how much KP they were able to collect, it seems like they've come up a bit short.
Only 4 kills there, and actually I want everyone to take a look at this. Most teams were contesting so much this game that the KP is actually surprisingly, I mean, it's super balanced, right? We saw so many of our fights take place outside the zone, nowhere close to the pole at all, right? And that's why you see such a wide disparity in how these points work out, and the fact that it's actually a fairly balanced finish. Even SCN, who finishes in 3rd there with the most kills in this lobby, actually ties our winner.
And it's just because of that way that they were able to clean up squads. Now, they didn't have as much action as the teams that were coming from Antenna, but moving their way up from Shipfall and Gale Station, they were able to clean up a lot more. They were participating in every single fight from their respective rotation, and that's what really makes the difference for SZN. 3 full squad wipes, and again, for a total that ties with the winning team. As to whether this pushes them into contention for prizing, though, is a question that we still have to answer, and it's one that we will answer when we get back from a short break and prepare ourselves for game number 6.
Look how close it is. NRG only 5 points down away from that top spot, but that's what happens when you have a 0-point game. Easy come, easy go. Number 1 spot for NRG, no mo.
Cheeky reboot if they can indeed pull it off using that mobile respawn. NRG now in a fight. They get a takedown. They get 1, 2, 3. I'm sorry, Esports Arena have to go back to the drawing board, leaving just 2 teams. Here comes Dark Zero versus NRG. Shots are raining down, and NRG are taking game number 3.
Look at NRG. Now they're getting it on the mix, and now NRG is a team that has showed up from game 1 and has continued to lay down the plays. We are down to our final 4. Dark Zero, Sentinel, Optic, and NRG. To the bitter end, walking off the plank, trying to make something happen out of nothing. Meanwhile, look at this spot from Duplex holding up on high. They're gonna have to drop. They have no choice. It will be Dark Zero to be eliminated. NRG still in on the mix. They're dealing out the damage as Nathan able to come through. Only one squad remains, and it will be NRG.
Be finding some knocks here. Not a whole lot of places to hide as we move into Launchpad, and Pander's popping the ult with supreme confidence is going to drop down, find that slay out, and pick up the knock onto Dan. Zera eats a bit too much. HEC go down there looking for the last members of SCN, but eating damage as they do it. Kenny goes down. Team Liquid still alive behind these fences, and they're gonna have to move right into the waiting arms of Luminosity. Bracelet doesn't go well. Yanya is positioned forward. This, as we said last game, is now their game to lose, and Luminosity Gaming are not letting it go. They've got a death grip, and Yanya backing off. Gives just enough space for Niesel to walk up. Brian one, taken down another. It is clinical, the cleanup from Luminosity Gaming in their home at Fish Farms. Welcome back, everyone, with a look at how that last game finished. Zephyr and I now finally get to answer the question, what does it mean? One game left to go, one last chance to put up points. This is where we stand going into Game 6.
Dark Zero still sit among the rest. Complexity were able to survive in the end, and that still nets them their second place position. But I remind you, that was only 4 points that they were able to build alongside Dark Zero's 0. Well, I'll tell you what, the Guard, BR Demons, G2, not really too different. SCN with their final finish does manage to push themselves a little bit further, but it's going to be really tough if we're talking about who comes out among the rest. To be honest, Dia, it really is left up to a competition between Dark Zero and Complexity.
The Guard would... Well, we'd need another game like last time with Dark Zero going out and then the Guard putting up a crazy amount of points to surpass their spot. With G2, it gets even more ridiculous. Same with SZN. But while that battle for the top is happening, we've also got our battle for the top 10. That's very, very close, Zephyr. Optic Gaming capped this one out with 24 points. Following them, MPS with 22, Stormtroopers with 21, HEC with 21, and Luminosity with 19. I could keep going because even Karasuno can still overcome Optic Gaming.
Oh my gosh. No, you're definitely right. The math is there. I say like I'm not just stupid.
It's it's just surprising. It's a surprising stat because normally we are looking at the top of the leaderboard where we have these big gaps that you illustrated already, but towards the bottom of the leaderboard, it is still very important. We have a lot of teams that are still arguably in contention, as unlikely as some of their scenarios may be, but it is important, not in the sense of them getting prizing today, because they can participate next week. They have the opportunity to get more placement points over the course of the season that after we finish Game 6 of today, we'll already be halfway through. Once we hit the end of the season, it'll be the top 20 teams from the course of everything in those finals that get to move on to the $20,000 playoffs, and that's arguably what you're really qualifying for here.
Yeah, it's not often that we bring up the playoffs, but we really should be, because that's what's going to cap off at least the first season here of Oversight in our split 2.
Yeah, it's what all these teams have got to look forward to, and it's why requalification is so important. It's why we get so many top-tier teams playing in the qualifiers on Monday, because investing that little bit of time and making it in to these finals to put up points really does matter, and especially like we talk about as we hit just the halfway point of the season. It makes sense we didn't talk about it in week 1 and week 2. Things were still sorting out. Now you see definite leaders start to pull up ahead, and certainly underdogs that maybe haven't been able to make as many finals as they would like, or who performing in those finals haven't quite been able to clutch it up as much as they would have preferred, now start to sweat about whether they'll actually get a position in that $20,000 playoff.
Whew. When you say it like that, you really stack the precedent. It's a lot. There's a lot of heavy weight on the line here for these teams to show up and show out every single week. So obviously, that's going to set up our narrative going into this game here. Not only will we be, of course, looking at the prizing, which is definitely going to be the heart of what we talk about, right? But also the top 10 and how they finish off here, because that just means one less day of play where you're going to have to compete against the best.
Yeah, I want to see if we can bring up those leaderboards one more time just to get a really good look at how things are sorting out, and most importantly, so that I can make note of exactly what teams we're keeping track of again. Because Optic currently sit with 24 points, NRG are also in danger right above them of not qualifying, which is not a sentence that I thought I would say today. MPS have actually had a really good day so far, but Stormtroopers notably have fallen off when we hit Storm Point.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've really fallen off in games 2 through 5. I don't know if it's been particularly... They had a really good start to the day up, but it hasn't been something that they've replicated. And I don't think it's much of a map-oriented thing, which can be a bit of a shocker, too, because we start off the day with this, like, immaculate performance that basically screams that they are capable. They are here to play, and that they can run it up against the best. But it just never, ever happened again here. Hopefully going into game 6, it's their final opportunity. They've literally been slipping away from a qualification spot in the top 10.
One more chance to push yourself back up as we are about to drop into game number 6. I'm taking note of the composition, seeing if anybody's changing things for the hot drop, but 100 Thieves really already did, as did Dark Zero, so if it's not on those two teams, we've already noted that most other squads are avoiding those 50-50s and thus the early fighting compositions. To be honest, I don't even mind 100 Thieves' composition when we get later into the game, especially on Storm Point. Bloodhound Bangalore, I never thought I'd say this again after Season 1, but has somehow just become a pretty good comp again.
I mean, I don't... That like brings up the big question. Was it a good comp in Split 1 of, year 3 when it kind of first found its major footing? We saw so many teams making that big switch, right? Was it a good comp then? I think we've gone through a very odd, system where we go into champs, teams walk away from it slowly. Furia has their big impressionable moment. Teams kind of resort back to it. So we get this big period between Split 2, year 3, and kind of now Split 1-ish, off-season-ish year 3, where teams are just starting to finally get a little bit more flexible here and return to potentially what can work.
This at least maintains static. Sharky down, and Dark Zero risking losing this 3v3 once again with only a little bit of ammunition and a frag grenade up against 3. Gonna be difficult. Let's listen in with Dark Zero and see how they fare.
I'm scanning.
Get in the room.
Oh, fuck.
You can win this.
I just almost we can win.
45.
Do you want online?
Yeah, I have one. I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm holding the door. I'm gonna back up, okay? Get ready. I'm holding the door. Okay, I'm gonna run back and then turn.
Purple lag rag.
I need that. I need that.
I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm scanning. No, they're not here. Wait, they're like sitting around. Like they're coming, maybe?
Got him marked now.
They're nading me.
I'll keep the door.
You wanna go back to the other door?
Come back to it.
Okay. I'm scanning 5.
I'm gonna mark you straight after.
I'm scanning.
Back!
Flash, one shot, man!
Hey, almost up.
Crack, weak! You! They're weak as fuck! They're weak as fuck. Oh. Nice! Killed. No, man! So fucking close, dude.
No, it was so close, Zephyr. I saw the dream for Dark Zero, but unable in the last seconds with the knockdown shields to pull out that 2v3 turnaround. You gotta respect the attempt, but the gumption from both teams is absolutely there. 100 Thieves hold on to their POI for now for the last game, and now get to make their way into what's evidently a very northwestern heavy zone.
Well, let's talk about it, folks. We come out of our last game here. 65 points is the number to beat. Obviously, we turn our attention to complexity right off of the bat there. Currently sitting a hearty 17 points behind, usurping Dark Zero's position. Very possible if they're able to walk away with a win and just get a very minor and achievable amount of KP to go alongside it.
It's very scary. You know, the nice thing is that I know a lot of people were heading it up for anonymous mode when that originally came out. You used to be able to see just when anyone was knocking exactly who they were. Now you don't, but you still get team notifications. Complexity still have that same knowledge that we do, that Dark Zero, the only squad ahead of them, are out of the lobby. And, well, we're seeing that their move through checkpoint now has started. I do wonder whether in the long run it'll turn into a complexity that is a little bit less aggressive, because they know exactly what you just said, that with that win and just the minimal amount of KP they would need, they could take away first place. They could walk away today with $2,300. As Optic fight for their place in the top 10, they're going to get themselves 3 more points, pushing themselves ahead of the competition and eliminating their direct competitors, Stormtroopers.
Hey, good for them there. It's going to be something that at least gets them that initial start to this game, pushes them directly into the heart of the top 10 for Stormtroopers. Going to have to reapproach once again back towards our qualifiers here. For Optic, though, they still got problems. I just spot a redeploy coming through not too far in a distant way, and several teams who are clearly watching as well. Oh, it's Complexity.
Trying to make their way in from checkpoint. Complexity spotted not just Optic Gaming, but Team Liquid ahead of them, and they've got even more competition flying in above. Holding on to spots as you approach down Beast from the north is incredibly difficult, as there really isn't that much cover inside of any of these donut buildings and even the rocks that Complexity have chosen to hold now. A Watson is going to do very little to stave off any other squads that rotate in, especially when checkpoint right behind Complexity is still open. They haven't cleared their backs, and there's a very good chance that even more teams rotate through from there.
Monsoon, a big extension out there, and that's hopefully information that will give them their next rotation forward. I sometimes see this zone, it carries a little bit further out towards the west, more heartily back towards Optic's position. It's potentially a transition that we'll have to see out of them. Meanwhile, for Sentinels, from behind, it's none other than Shooby Dooby there with the charge rifle to find a drop.
MPS were just 2 points off of top 10 and can absolutely push themselves there just even by picking up this thirst. They get that much closer, closing the gap by just over half, especially as they're going to be able to pick up placement points soon. Now, Valkult forward might take them onto the 2-person squad, might be a relocation. We'll see how aggressive they want to try and play this. At the moment, it seems like it's pretty darn aggressive, Zephyr.
Right on top of them. Enemy airstrike coming in for MPS. They set themselves up outside of Cascades here, but don't quite get the lockdown on what they need. It's a good rotation forward. Madness with the bracelet ahead just as well to potentially set up for the final chunks of damage. They need to finish this squad off. It looks like, though, still remarkably safe. Oh, and a respawn.
Wait a minute. That means they're really split up. The fact that Sentinels have both a respawn going on and are making their way into the choke is extraordinarily risky. There it goes. The drop
And the turnaround from MPS as they recognize exactly what we did moments ago. There are more free kills for the picking right here. Complexity holding on underneath are going to have a little bit of an easier journey as they're already inside of the following zone, not going down to beast, and instead pulling out way into the open. This is going to be an extraordinarily difficult place to play.
Difficult to play, hard to hold on to, but it was necessary. Had Complexity held on to that lower southeastern corner there, they would have had a much worse rotation. Talk about, 5-6 minutes later. They make an early move forward. Somehow, some way, are allowed to sneak through the damage that could have been provided by both TL and Optic. They don't get knocked. In fact, they get a reset and now have a position that can and will provide. It ain't easy, Dia, but it isn't. It's more incredible than we let on.
It's true, and Complexity have made a good call out here. They've put themselves right next door to a lot of squads, including Team Liquid. But what I'm noting is that HCE are out at the pinnacle of this small land extension out towards North Pad. They find themselves right next to Guard, next door to NRG as well, and with so many squads crowding in there, it's a miracle that nobody has fallen just yet in this open ground. The BR Demons, though, looking for a fight of their own, do eat a little bit more damage than they were bargaining for, and having lost reads, may very well have lost this fight as well. Naughty's been full thirsted. The push from ESA does come in. Phony is alive, but only picks up the banner, doesn't get the shield swap, and it's up to Capra to save the day, and that he does. That's what you can rely on Capra for. The BR Demons are taken out.
BR Demons here going down early. That stunts what could have been the potential win for them to carry into the top 4 prizing. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't look any better for ESA, especially as a team that was set in 18th before this game. Sentinels wrapped through from checkpoint after their respawns and finished the job.
Qualifier run from Esports Arena was incredible, and they'll just have to do it again. Sentinels are fighting for their own lives here, is sitting at 19th below Esports Arena going into this game. They need to make top 10 as well. It's nothing personal, kids. But SSG, they're making moves as well. All the way through Jurassic. We already saw the Longbow claiming some lives out by North Pad, where Guard and HCE, as we illustrated earlier, are set up. But it was TSM up on this high ground that were receiving the most focus, the most pressure, and as the zone continues to pull away from them, I don't see that going away, Zephyr.
I will say, let's talk about it. The Guard, we don't highlight them as a team to usurp first, but now that Dark Zero are down with only 65 points, the gap between them and the Guard is highlighted by a 26-point necessary difference. That means they need the win plus 14 kills. A much, much larger gap than Complexity, but definitely one that's possible.
You can't afford to. Well, yeah. I don't actually. I'm thinking about it. I don't know if you can afford to tie. Dark Zero do have 2 wins. The Guard would as well. So things really would come down to the wire when it comes to these average placements. But given how well both squads have survived so far, how quiet both teams have been, and interestingly enough, how close to each other they are, Zephyr. The difference between the Guard and Complexity is just HCE. That is the only team between these two, and that's not a position that I like. SSG, they're pushing up themselves into the hot dog buildings, and they do find some good damage initially, but their focus has to be on the rotation, not these kills.
Pulling away from the bun for now, SSG. And have to regroup, maybe potentially reassess. The problem is they've given themselves away. Now teams know, and it's going to likely be this redeploy after they reset and get their health in a much better situation. You can see there for a highlight in just a second that it looks like Sentinels picked off as we make our way through this free camp.
It's got to be. Like you say, that redeploy, I'm keeping my eyes on SSG as to where they'll
go.
We see them taking off right now, and 100 Thieves have absolutely taken note. Looking towards the south side of the map, they're not the only gunfight going on, though. MPS are going up against Luminosity for the right to rotate through checkpoint, and
We'll get the chance to look at them a little bit later. SSG drop down into this bunker. SZN don't find Frex on the landing, and it's time for SSG to stabilize, as very few will be contesting this. MPS get eliminated meanwhile, and that's by Luminosity, who pick up those kills, making the argument for themselves as they push further up in the standings.
Whoa! From afar here, Kenny might have just decided the game in such a way. It's a big drop down in part of complexity. They're low, they're flesh, they're in the heart of zone here, but they've lost out on one. It looks like Monsoon to quickly follow suit. It's left up to Luxford to hold this one out, and I'll tell you what, Dia, from that position, from all these teams who are going to be making their way north, it won't last.
Oh, that rotation was cursed, Zephyr. That was not the schmoove. TSM get to collect that. They're the ones who benefit, moving themselves up point by point from 15th, where they're currently sat. But TSM's position isn't going to go great either. They've still got to contest with Guard. They still are next-door neighbors with NRG, who will be sharing in some of that loot. But the Guard, recognizing exactly what we talked about earlier, seeing that the competition ahead of them has fallen, know exactly what they need to do, but their kills do need to be a whole lot heavier.
Problem for the Guard is, while they do find it right in the back, NRG eliminated from behind. A good shot there. The Guard start racking them up, but it needs to be more. And being in the heart of the zone can be such a difficulty, Dia, right? I mean, you have Godspot. The Guard have clearly laid stake and claim on a zone that will provide, but that means they will not be a squad that is constantly competing, constantly fighting, and they need to be if they want to walk away with first.
And unlike TSM, they won't have access to those death boxes. We saw this play out in game number 1 on Stormpoint. Resources can run low for the Guard, and that's not something that they get to fix very easily. It relies on other teams getting too close to them for comfort, as Luminosity stick their landing in these bunkers as well. They are unlikely to really be anywhere close to that following action up in the north anytime soon. SCN, though, getting uncomfortably close, going up against Karasuno. Do lose Kenny, but haven't lost everything. Bats are going off, and SZN are turning to fight.
It is a reset, but there's so many other squads making their way towards North Pad. It's not going to be Karasuna. Instead, it's Furia here from behind. An immediate elimination in full. Zera picking that one off from a distance. Now, Furia and Luminosity both rotating through the trenches do meet. A bit of smoke, though, dissuades the current combat.
Another kill. HEC are out, and Gara pick up at least one of those. That, combined with the 2 placement points they've got so far, pushes them ever closer to the top. Can the Guard do this? Because their positioning suggests that they just might. Luminosity's rotation around is equally as tense, as these bunkers give you no room for mistakes, and 100 Thieves, now sandwiched between the Guard and G2, are in a deadly spot.
G2 here looking to capitalize right now. Looks like fighting starting to take place in the trenches for G2. They have pulled away. They want to make sure they clean out the rest of these later rotating squads, playing the direct edge of zone here. And they actually worked their way against what was that initial knock we actually saw sustained by 100 Thieves.
Furia have managed to push their way up, taking SSG back a step. The kills are continually racked up. That's 2 more for the Guard. As we keep our eyes on this team that is continuing to steamroll forward, who will shut them down? You have to deny the win from the Guard to take away that first place at the end of the day. And with Luminosity now gone at the hands of Furia and Optic, it gets ever closer to that end game. 8 squads remain. Valcult behind this rock. Optic Gaming are going to spot that. I don't think they can do too much about it, especially since they're still eating damage.
SSG going deep here. This might be another opportunity, especially given how open this spacing is, for the guard to lay in and wait. Remember, there's still 10 kills away from taking away that spot from Dark Zero. You can see the shots lining through, and what I can only assume is G2 from this other angle also putting damage down where it counts. SSG with the recovery for now, and G2 slowly inching their way forward. They've got the castle wall, but they got a mobile shield behind them.
They gotta watch their backs right now. Rolling Thunder is gonna cause some chaos as well, and Resulta cannot even fire up right now as Optic Gaming are the ones to take this high ground, steal it away from G2, and fire forward. Looking for this knock. Flesh gets found. Karasuno are out, and TSM are taking out TL in the meanwhile. 7 teams left. We're gonna be dropping at least 2 as Optic Gaming jump down to the low ground with this Havoc. Skittlecakes lets his team do the rest of the heavy lifting, and G2 go out. We're in the top 6 squads, and SSG are pushing up on this as well. G2 taken down. Their Slayers, maybe not long for the world, is Optic in trouble. Furia get taken down by TSM. We're into the top 4 squads. SSG are going to drop us into the top 3 as Optic Gaming get the chance to reset. And Guard are pushing up onto TSM. This Horizon Gravity Lift buying that crucial time to hit these bats in safety. Nades going out. The Guard are playing this safe. They know they need first place.
They need first place. But I don't think there's enough people left in the lobby, Dia. So many squads have fallen here. The guard never got the chance to take part. With only 6 kills remaining on the board, I don't think it's going to be enough to take away that spot from Dark Zero. But it could be enough to finish above Complexity. Still a fantastic way to end the night. But you gotta go up against TSM and Optic. 2 teams clearly on fire, both respectively decimating the lobby here from the south side.
And both historically dominant. This is the real test for Guard, the squad that has had their come up this season. Can they come out ahead against 2 of the best squads that North America has produced, both pre-ALGS Year 2 and during? These were the dominant teams, and Duplex definitely demonstrating the mechanics that have brought them all the way here by pushing TSM forward, forcing them into Guard. Optic getting even more aggressive now with these smokes. They are testing the Guard, and Noct coming around this corner is going to really make things difficult. He takes a lot of damage though. The Guard fully pushed back, not taking the disrespect from Optic. Keon finds the knock onto Duplex. Another one falls as Skittlecakes bites the dust, and now it's just up to Noct. Sat in the corner behind the knockdown shield. He does take down one. Keon is out. TSM are going to push up on this. Hal is down. The Guard can still clutch this. Optic Gaming got taken out. Verhulst whips out the G7. Finds 179 onto Rambo, taking him out. And in a 1v1 scenario, Verhulst pushes TSM to the win.
TSM Verhulst with the G7 Scout. This boy does not miss.
They do not mess around. We talked about it there. Some of the greatest squads in ALGS history. They push forward for the win in Oversight game number 6. We're going to take a look back at how all of this happened.
Oh my gosh. What an insane there. Oh wow. That's
it's hard to do. It's hard to
the catch our sadness on the elimination of Dark Zero there.
So many teams, right, fell before what they would hope was their time. So many squads had to push themselves up to top 10, keep themselves there, look for that prizing, as in Oversight every week counts. But this final circle, this was where it really all came together.
Love this.
Optic, they got that confidence push, but Guard said absolutely no way.
Straight into the fray here. They just lay it in. And the best part about this is the fact that they actually found a response onto Hal during this entire thing. It was a 2v1 situation, a position that TSM did not hold dominantly, and they still came out on top.
That's that Verhulst pickup paying off. Looking back at year 2, it's delicious. And I'm glad that we got to see those 3 squads face off in such a manner. Taking a look now at the scores from that game, it should come as no surprise that TSM with first place and 11 kills fragged out to 23 points total.
Oh my gosh, what a finish from TSM to round off the night here. And that's really important, Dia, because we didn't talk about it. We never set it up. TSM were in 15th in that game 5 going into 6 with 17 points, and they needed the win to push into the top 10 to avoid relegation and to finish among the rest.
Just barely squeezing it in time. They make it forward to next week's finals here on Oversight. The cutoff for that being Team Liquid. Teams like NRG, MPS, Furia, Luminosity, 100 Thieves, they're gonna have to all try again. But BR Demons and Team Liquid make that cutoff, keep themselves safe with 37 points. In order, though, for prizing, Dark Zero have walked away from today. $2,300 the richer. The Guard pick themselves up a second place for $1,500. Complexity take away $900 for third place. And G2 slide their way into fourth for an extra $300. Optic just barely missing out.
Can I say something too? It is so crazy the fact that Dark Zero win this, because they failed many times to have good starts in so many of their games. In the final 2 of the night, literally accumulating 0.
Yeah, let's just put this in perspective. A lot of teams played 6 games. Dark Zero played 4.
I think it might be less too. I don't have the full data, but I'm pretty sure they also had another really bad game. Dark Zero quite literally played 3, while the rest of the lobby likely played 6.
Yeah. And while it varies from team to team, well, some squads are going to be eliminated, unfortunately, early. The fact that it was the 50-50s that Dark Zero were opting into while being in first place, while risking it all, and still coming out on top, that speaks to the confidence of this squad. They're not looking for, small, in-the-moment victories. This is a team that has won international competition not once, but twice. All of last year, they won. And Dark Zero get to use that confidence in themselves to look for these small advantages for the future, risking it all right here for Command Center, something that not a lot of teams have the luxury to do.
Well, we'll see how it carries forward here. This is one of your best opportunities to get that extra info on any one of these Apex Legends competitors, these North American gods, especially as we are starting to make our way across the finish line in ALGS, Dia.
Now, we have just walked up on the halfway point in Oversight as well, so as the battle for playoffs happens there, it's happening parallel right here on Oversight, where you can, of course, get your favorite teams in North America competing for their very own slice at prizing, slice at glory. I have been Dia. I've been joined by Zephyr for an incredible day on Oversight. A big thank you to the people who make this show possible, most notably Hyperlux, but all of the production staff that we have behind the scenes here at Oversight, to the players who come out and make this so exciting to watch, and to all of you at home for tuning in once more. We look forward to seeing you, yes, you, right back here for week number 4 of Split 2 of Oversight in 7 days.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.